What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 35 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh. And Mike is in shambles right now.
And I'm fucking dead.
Yeah.
And I'm Mike.
It was a rough weekend. The 49ers lost the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs this weekend. And I had spent probably a good portion of the season talking about that specific week the 49ers would beat the Chiefs, and then fate, as fate had it, they met up in the Super Bowl and the 49ers could not get it done. Let's talk about it. Where do I begin? It's it's so tough being a 49er fan, dude. It's like we get right next to the mountaintop and then we just come crashing right down. It's like we're about to get right there. The promised land is just within sight, and then everything gets taken from us every single time. It's been like this ever since I've been a fan. If you're an older 49er fan, or at least, not old, but have witnessed anything previous to 1995, you've at least witnessed at least one Super Bowl and probably several Super Bowls. But my one nightmare as a 49er fan, and just as a football fan in general, my one nightmare has kind of come true, but I almost feel like it's worse. But growing up, I always said that I never wanted to experience what Buffalo Bills fans had to experience, losing 4 Super Bowls. And, the 49ers now have lost 3 Super Bowls, 3 that they've went to in a row. But I think this is worse because we are in the age of social media, and it is more broadcast to a national stage, and there's more people watching than ever. And, the 49ers had such a great season leading up to the Super Bowl. And such a great team full of great players, great storylines. And I mean, really, this has been such a great year. At least since football season started, because I mean, we started this podcast how many months ago, Mike? Sometime
probably 2 months before the season started.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. July? I don't know. Maybe
yeah, that sounds about right. But 49ers could not get it done, and really I kind of left the game sort of like I'm kind of numb to this at this point. You know what I mean? Like we've experienced heartbreak so much. And we're gonna get into what happened in the game, but first off, I just want to say my prayers to Dre Greenlaw. He experienced probably the most catastrophic injury that he could have experienced in the final game of the season, which might keep him sidelined for the entire year next year. And he's one of the better defensive players on the 49ers. This kind of gives me A little bit of like Navarro Bowman vibes in that NFC Championship game that they lost to the Seattle Seahawks back in 2013. So that's devastating. And, I really feel for players like Trent Williams who are getting up there in age. George Kittle. It didn't occur to me today that George Kittle has played in 7 years in his career. He's like, if he's not in the middle of his career, he might be in the back end of his career already. It depends how long he wants to play and how long his body will want, allow him to play.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I have to say, like, in terms of effort and everything, like the defense played their ass off. Brock Purdy played well. The 49ers just couldn't really establish a consistent rhythm on offense. And, a lot of people are blaming Kyle Shanahan, and I do think that there is a fair amount of blame to put on Kyle Shanahan, but I feel like most of the criticism I saw live while watching it was just the fact that, coming out of halftime, the 49ers picked off Patrick Mahomes and they were up 7 points and, got the football in pretty good field position, like around midfield. And, Mike and I were texting during the game, and Mike's like, CMC time, baby. And, the 49ers called, I think, one rush out of like 8 plays, right? Or like 7 out of 8 plays were passes. Some were just like empty backfields, and the 49ers were playing, beyond 10 yards, of the line to gain. And, they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. They kept, allowing the Chiefs opportunities to get back in the football game when the 49ers could have pulled themselves away. And, credit to the Kansas City Chiefs. They were the better team yesterday. I'm not going to be one of those guys that is just going to say the only reason why we lost is the officiating. There was definitely a lot of poor officiating, especially like,
a lack of holding calls.
I saw at least one that was on the Niners that wasn't called, so that worked in our favor. But there were like several on the Chiefs where the tackles were blatantly holding, Nick Bosa. I saw one on Javon Hargrave, but that's not the sole reason why we lost. It's just upsetting that it's like, we've talked about this. There's not a consistent, like, I guess, amount of calls. Like it happens so consistently to be called so inconsistently, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I guess what's crazy to me too is, while I was texting you after the game, Mike, you mentioned this felt like your team lost the game. Can you tell me like your experience watching the game?
Well, I joked after the game that this game felt to me like Darth Vader winning and like the Death Star destroying the planet,
Mm-hmm.
Like the Chiefs winning, it just felt like it wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know how that makes sense. I mean, they won, I guess, fair and square and all that. And at this point, it just feels like Patrick Mahomes is fucking inevitable, and it's unfortunate. I think from my point of view, and we've talked about this before on here, but just to kind of quickly summarize it, how I feel as far as football, and it could be fantasy football too. It's like, to me, what matters is, championships, right? And I mean, for me, like fantasy football, it's all about the fun, but there's also a championship at the end, and it's competitive sport. So at the end of the day, it's like, hey, who has the most championships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, for me, it's like, I want teams like the Lions, the Texans, the Jaguars. I want to see those teams win here and there, right? I also, obviously, I want my team to win first, but if it's not going to be my team, I want the team that hasn't done it to do it. And the Chiefs have done it twice in the past 5 years. And
they've won
been there
3 times.
Now,
they've won 3 times in the past 5 years.
Yeah, my bad. Going into this game, I meant. But yes. They have won it now 3 times out of the past 5 years, which is, simply it's a dynasty, and they show no sign of slowing down. And I think from my perspective, it's like, well, like you said, Niner fans haven't seen them win it since 95. Neither of us were born, And I think fans like you, this sucks. This sucks. No offense. Just I couldn't imagine. I really couldn't imagine. And point being, yes, I was rooting very hard for the Niners, and I think what's kind of been, for lack of a better term, a blessing with this podcast is I've had the ability to really grow closer to your Niner team, and coming out of the NFC Championship, it's like I sit back and I'm just thinking like, man, this team absolutely deserves it. And I like so many players on this team. And a guy, I know we're going to get into the game, but a guy that I'm head over heels for right now is Jauan Jennings, man. That dude is like a superhero. Every time you need something to happen, he's there. I don't know what it is. But anyways, just
upcoming free agent.
Yeah. I was wondering. He's definitely made himself some money. That's for sure. Man, but first and foremost, I hate the Chiefs. I hate them. I hate everything that was going on in the media regarding them this season. And they perfectly built themselves up, especially with the past 4 to 5 years included. They've built themselves up to be the perfect villain. They are absolutely the perfect villain in the NFL in sports. They're right up there now with the Houston Astros, in my opinion, the New York Yankees, the LA Dodgers, the LA Lakers, those teams that just always win. And it's like, sick and tired of them. Somebody beat them, please. The Chiefs have now entered the playing field. And you pair that with the fact that the Niners they're the Bay Area's team, right? I'll just say it. I live in the Bay Area. I've watched almost every Niner game this season. I know the team pretty well. We've had this podcast every week. We talk about their games. Yeah, I go into this game and I'm like, I hate that other team, and I actually quite like this team. This Niners team, it's like, yeah, it felt like my team lost. Hockey, the Golden Knights, like, get them out of here. I know, hey, I'm a Raider fan, but I'm a Bay Area fan too. Like, I'm a Sharks fan. So when you have this team, you have a hockey team coming out of nowhere. What do you call it? Brand new team. What's that called?
Expansion team.
An expansion team. And in year 1 or year 2, they go to the Stanley Cup. Whereas you have the Sharks who have been around for 30 years and they barely go once and they don't win it. It's like, oh my God, stuff like that is just. So here we are with the Chiefs. And again, as the Raider fan who cares about overall championships, well, the Chiefs just jumped us in the ranks, right? Now the Chiefs have 4, the Raiders and Broncos have 3. Raider fans, again, we're going to get back to the Niners very soon. And, for you guys, it's like you've now witnessed 3 straight Super Bowl losses. Can't imagine. From my end, as far as the Chiefs go, it's like all I've witnessed in my fandom is these 2 other teams that I hate the most, the Chiefs and the Broncos, go out there and catch up to the Raiders. That old Raider team that just dominated in the 70s and 80s. And now it's like, well, it's hardly to show for anymore. It's like they're barely holding on by a thread to sticking with the Broncos. Now you have the Chiefs jumping them, and it's like, again, no sign of slowing down. The Chiefs could be right in 3 to 4 years. The Chiefs could just win 2 more Super Bowls, and they're tied with the Steelers and the Patriots for the most all-time Super Bowl wins in a franchise. That's disgusting.
And what's even more disgusting is that the Chiefs, I think, have a good shot to at least win another championship, because this was their down year. Like, they could not establish an offensive rhythm really for most of the season, and they just pulled it together in the end and decided, you know what, we're just gonna put it all on Mahomes, and it worked.
Yeah, and I know I don't want to. This isn't really the time to toot my horn, but I remember maybe a month or so ago, I mentioned we were talking about Antonio Pierce being hired by the Raiders, and we were talking about like how the Raiders beat every team in the AFC West, and they beat the Chiefs, right? And it was like, yeah, but like the Chiefs aren't that good. And I said something like, well, watch them go beat the Bills this weekend. I could have really put it all on the table and said, hey, watch them go win the Super Bowl again. That's just, it's the Chiefs, man. It's like I said, like Thanos, they are inevitable. That's how it feels now. They feel like the Patriots of old. And that is disgusting to say, because the Patriots never lost their division. Never. As long as Tom Brady was there. And we got 28-year-old Patrick Mahomes. So
I feel like the Chiefs are like the fun Patriots, because the Patriots they would win, and they would win in the most boring fashion, playing the most boring football games. But at least the Chiefs, it's like, I would say that everyone hates the Chiefs probably more because of the way they conduct themselves publicly and all the, like stuff that's just surrounding that team, whether it's like Mahomes' brother or, Mahomes, like the whole Mahomes family. There's something going on there, like always. And then now you add Taylor Swift into the mix, and like how, people mention how, I mean, there's half people, they're like, she's ruining football, or, maybe an overwhelming majority. I don't speak for everybody. There's a lot of people saying she's ruining football. There's, a lot of people that, love that she's, being shown, and it's attracting like a bigger audience to the NFL. And like, I find it funny, they'll show like the time, like, oh, she was only on the screen for 54 seconds or, 59 seconds, right? But like, she wasn't shown for 1 minute, like, or 54 seconds straight. It was like, they must have showed her at least 10 times during the game, like panned to her for a couple seconds at a time. Like, anytime there was like a big moment in the game, it just like, showed her. And even like, Tom Brady was dating a supermodel. I very rarely would
oh
see.
My God, dude.
Yeah, would see his wife. So
yeah, I want to make a point on Taylor Swift really quick. Again, this is the Chiefs, so for me, right, it's like anything they do is annoying, especially when they're winning. I remember early on this season, not on the podcast, I was complaining quite a bit about Jason and Travis Kelce getting all these commercials. And even above that, what I thought was really ridiculous, like at first it was cute, but then it was like, no, here we go. This is the media, taking something and really running with it when they really don't need to. Their mom, dude, the Kelce mother was like in every commercial for about 2 months, and coming out of last season, right? Because it was the Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It was like, oh, it's the Kelce Bowl. That just skyrocketed the Kelces, right? And then you had, the Campbell's Kelce commercial, and then you had, you have Travis and Pfizer and this and that and whatever. And then you also had their mom in these commercials, and I was like, dude, I am so tired of them. And then Travis Kelce just went up and decided, you know what? Watch this. And got with fucking Taylor Swift, and that just, the
rest was
Kelces
history.
And their mom, the Kelces and their mom was nothing compared to this. And then as far as like ruining football, Taylor Swift isn't ruining football. It the one positive is, yes, okay, cool. She's bringing in like a demographic that wasn't really watching football before. That's cool. That is cool. Here's my problem. I understand why the media does it. I understand, let's get a couple shots in to, get all the Taylor Swift, but like for me, What am I here? What am I here for? Raiders versus Chiefs on Christmas. Am I there because it's Christmas? No. Right? If I were there because it's Christmas, I would turn the TV off, spend time with my family. But no, I'm a diehard Raider fan. I want to watch the game. And a lot of people across the nation also wanted to watch football while opening gifts or whatever. Cool. I'm there for football. Okay? That's why my TV is on the game. For football. Raiders versus Chiefs. Not Raiders versus Chiefs and Taylor Swift. Right? So when a play is conducted, Travis Kelce catches a 5-yard third down pass, gets the first down. Instead of showing Travis Kelce, doing a tomahawk chop first down, you cut to Taylor Swift. For me, it's so annoying because you're taking it away from football. You're taking the football moment and putting it on something else, and it's taking me out. And I'm like the diehard football fan. I'm just like, I don't want to see that. I want to see football. I just want to see the field.
Mm-hmm.
I get commercials, but I want to see the field.
I think the biggest issue, with how many times they pan to her, and this has been an issue that everybody's been complaining about, or a lot of people have been complaining about for the entire season. I think that nationally televised broadcasts are supposed to be like a neutral. It's supposed to be a neutral broadcast. The announcers are not supposed to favor one team or the other. The broadcast isn't supposed to favor one team or the other. It's supposed to be like, all right, it's very professional. You're supposed to kind of be very equal with the way that you cover both teams. And when they're constantly showing the wife of one player on one team, it's like, I think maybe avenues to try and combat this might be, I feel like they could open the door to having teams provide their own broadcast and have it on their own specific service, to offer, maybe at a low price until they eventually raise the price, like every service, right? But it would hire more people, to announce and cover the game. But I do see the issue in that is that you're gonna have so many people watching so many different things and getting so many different experiences. I get why they want to watch one, but it's just the fact that it's been every game this season that they'll just constantly show one player's wife. It's not the only player. Travis Kelce is not the only player to ever date a celebrity. You know what I mean? I'll be damned if, I was watching a 49er game in 2018 and Jimmy Garoppolo was playing and they were panning to Kiara Mia, right? They were not doing that, right? She was a celebrity in her own right?
Oh, yeah.
But going back to the game, and kind of bringing back the focus on the Super Bowl itself, the game kind of played out exactly how the Chiefs and the 49ers seasons went respectively. The 49ers started off the game dominating. The scoreboard didn't reflect it, right? But the 49ers were dominating, and they started off their season so dominant, right? The 49ers started off 5-0, then obviously went on the 3-game losing streak, and then got right back on track, and then started to fall off towards the end of the season, right? It wasn't the same dominant team towards the end of the season that we got at the beginning, whether they just ran out of gas or what.
Yeah.
In the Super Bowl, the 49ers started off very strong. Then towards the middle, around the third quarter, when they started 3 straight 3-and-outs after halftime, that was the 3-game losing streak right there, right? Then, the 49ers pick it back up a little bit. You think that they might win. They start controlling the ball a little bit more, but they can't get it in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they just kind of fell off at the end. The Chiefs started off very sluggish. They started off the season, very sluggish. They lost against Detroit week 1. They were very inconsistent all year on offense. And then all of a sudden they pull it together in the end, play great defense. And then, there you have it. You have your Super Bowl champions, right? 3-time Super Bowl champions. So I thought it was, kind of crazy that they were able to. I mean, like just the fact that the game went exactly how, like, it reflected their season. It really did. And um, you know, the Niners, like, hot start was halted by McCaffrey's fumble, which he had only done two other times this season. Um, well, I think he's fumbled three times, but he's only lost two. You
Mm.
know, and then the Niners defense, dude, they showed up. Steve
They
Wilks,
showed. Whew,
Steve
yeah.
Wilks deserves a lot of credit for showing up, but towards the end of the game, he made a lot of questionable decisions. One that forced Kyle Shanahan to call a timeout, and, like, you could see Shanahan yelling at him on the headset.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and so that was definitely interesting to see, and I think Shanahan deserves credit for calling the timeout and saving the 49ers from whatever was to come. But, the damage, I think, was really done in the third quarter in this game when they missed so many opportunities to really, like, tack on points to pull away from the Chiefs, and they just couldn't, you know. Um, they went in too many empty backfields. I would have loved to see them run the ball more, maybe more play action, right? Instead of just
Yeah.
instead of just telling the defense, all right, we're not going to run the ball. We're not even going to fake like we're running the ball. We're just going to have everybody spread out wide, and you're going against a great defense. And, you know, like I said, Purdy played well, and I don't think he was the problem in this game. He didn't turn the ball over. Um, it wasn't enough to win, and really that was probably more indicative of the play calling than it was on Brock
Yeah.
Purdy and the
Yeah.
protection up front. But the 49ers, this is something that they're going to have to address this offseason if they want to have one more crack at this window. Because I'm telling you right now, this next year is the final year before they have to extend Purdy. I think next year is it, if it's going to happen with this core. And that's if they even want to run it back with this core. We're going to talk about that topic in a little bit about what's next for the 49ers, but uh, there were some key issues up front, and I sent you a lot of stuff on Twitter. I don't know if I should go through a couple of those things or.
Yeah, I would say as far as kind of going over the game, maybe I can just kind of quickly go quarter by quarter, and then we could start pulling up the tweets.
Yeah,
Which the tweets will probably be a little out of order, so maybe just going quarter by quarter first. We'll kind of give quick thoughts on that as we go, and then we'll get into the tweets. At least that's what makes sense to me. So I'll just say first quarter and really the second quarter, just, the entire game was just a defensive showcasing, But early on, the first half of this game, I mean, 10-3 at halftime. Like, who would have thought of that? Chiefs versus Niners, But you got a 0-0 first quarter, and then in the second quarter, how did you feel about Jake Moody making the 55-yard field goal, and which was setting the record, all-time longest field goal?
It was not the record for very long because Harrison Butker on the other side hit an even longer one. But I was really proud of Jake Moody. I know a lot of people give him a lot of flack for missing the PAT that was blocked, and he did kick it low. But if you're telling me that was going to change the outcome of the game, I really don't think so, because I think the Chiefs kind of cracked the code on the defense. And if the 49ers kicked that PAT, the Chiefs at very least could have just won the game in regulation.
Well, the Chiefs in the fourth quarter, they scored 2 field goals. So one of those, they would have been more, what do you call it? They would have focused on scoring a touchdown and not a field goal, to tie the game.
They would have gone for a touchdown, which would have put them ahead by 3 points, and the 49ers could have answered. And then we would have put all the pressure back on Jake Moody to kick a game-winning field goal. And Jake Moody was I think 3 of 3 on field goals. So he was was great. He made a lot of like clutch kicks. You know, the PAT, that's just 1 point off the board. And really, if the 49ers did have to, did make that and the Chiefs score a touchdown and we're down by 3 and we kick it, tie it back up and we're back to square one back in overtime. So, really it's just, it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
That wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back. I think when I figured that we were not going to win this game was when Steve Wilks called a blitz and he sent the house on 3rd down in overtime. And even Tony Romo was like, "Oh, you should not have done that," because he was like, he was pointing at the line of scrimmage and like, he was like, "I expect these linebackers to drift back into coverage," and they rushed the passer, and Fred Warner might have been held by Jerick McKinnon, but you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the 49ers didn't. They get a really long completion because Ray Rice, I mean not Ray Rice, what's his name? Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice caught the football and had a lot of yards after the catch, and the Chiefs were just driving down the field. And another thing that people kind of, I guess, criticize and this actually is a big deal in my opinion, is that the 49ers, did you know this, Mike? They didn't know the overtime rules.
Yeah, I saw this after the game when I was going to bed. I sent it to myself on Twitter so I could watch it, but because I saw Juszczyk talked about it at his post-game press conference, and I was like, yeah, and I'm like, what is that, dude? Like, how? Because I remember, okay, we're not going to go quarter by quarter. We can just pull up the tweets whenever, but I just when the game goes to overtime, and I mean, how about that heart attack of Travis Kelce getting that long, like 30-yard play with 9 seconds to go, and the Chiefs had a timeout? Oh my gosh, dude.
Okay, so this is what Kyle Juszczyk said after the game, and he said, "I assume you just want the ball because you score a touchdown and win, on the overtime rules. But no, if you score a touchdown, you don't win." And then whereas on the Chiefs side of the football, Drew Tranquill said, "We had an overtime rules presentation and strategy meeting every week of the playoffs and twice in our Super Bowl prep." That, I mean, really the difference in this game, both defenses came to play. I think both teams really battled in this game, but it really just came down to the coaching. I think Andy Reid is just a better coach than Kyle Shanahan. And Steve Spagnuolo, had his number on Kyle Shanahan, and the Niners got away from what got them there. So it was very unfortunate.
Yeah. I can't believe that the Niners as a team, at least to a degree, many players did not know the rules. Like, I don't know. That's just mind-boggling, I guess. Just and it's almost funny, but it's really disgusting that the overtime rules were literally changed because of team, like the Bills, but really because of the Chiefs. And the thought process was, oh, quarterbacks like Mahomes, we need to kind of almost handicap them, if that makes sense. Like, we can't give these great quarterbacks the opportunity just based off of a coin flip, to go and win the game on one drive. Like, college, they have it down, and having the playoffs be like that, at least to a degree, is very good. But the fact that this rule changed, like, 2 years ago, if that, and players didn't know that boggles my mind, because what I was going to say earlier is once the game went to overtime, I was thinking you have to kick off to the Chiefs. You have to. And then the Niners decided not to, and I thought, okay, I can understand because the defense just got gashed all the way down the field. a minute ago, and they're gassed. I get that. So they're like, let's put our offense on the field, let our defense kind of recuperate. Hopefully, Patrick Mahomes can kind of cool down from his hot streak, and hopefully when we score our touchdown, our defense can make the stops necessary and go win the game. I totally get it. Problem is, in overtime, in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, if you don't fucking think that Patrick Mahomes is going to get it done, you're mistaken. He's going to get it done. So the problem is giving him the ball second, that's when it's sudden death. The first team that gets the ball, it's not sudden death, which that's the problem is these players thought it was. And then they go out there and they kick a field goal. I'm just sitting there like, oh my God. Again, we could talk about more of the earlier game, but that 3rd and 4 in overtime, again, I mean, this was probably at least the third time the Chiefs send the fucking house
The
at
Niners.
Brock Purdy at the Niners.
Geez.
Yeah, and this is in the goal basically on the goal line, 3rd and 4 in the red zone. Brock Purdy gets the pass, right?
Let me pull it up.
Let me
pull up Baldy's breakdown.
Okay, yeah. It just the fucking protection. And
there's a breakdown.
We'll talk.
Oh, so this is Brian Baldinger at Baldy NFL, on Twitter. So go follow him. But this is the 3rd and 4 play that the 49ers, this is exactly what they wanted. But, you've got the backup right guard in with Spencer Burford, and this is just awful. So I'm going to let Baldy break it down.
On 3rd and 4, with a chance to score an easy touchdown. And up front, Brendel's going to pull. All right, but this is wrong right here. Somebody's wrong. Chances are it should have been a slide to the right. You can't let the Chiefs' best player, Chris Jones, come free. He's a monster. And so Purdy's forced to throw this ball away. Maybe he had a shot at Jennings. They kicked a field goal. But had they blocked it properly, this is what they would have had. Up at the top is man coverage. All right, McDuffie is on Debo, and L'Jarius Sneed is on Ayuk, and Ayuk is going to beat him clean. In fact, Sneed is on the ground, and Ayuk is running free in the end zone. Could have easily been a touchdown if they blocked it well up front. Ayuk scores maybe his easiest touchdown of the season. He can't believe it. You can see it. He's like, no.
Yeah, man. I didn't see that live. I just saw, a big fat guy up in Purdy's face within 2 seconds, and he's throwing the 3rd down pass away, and I'm like, oh my God. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, do we go for it? Because I don't give a shit if you kick a field goal or not. Patrick Mahomes isn't going to kick a field goal unless that's what he needs. Yeah, okay. You miss or you don't go for the field. You go for 4th down. You don't get it. It's like they get 3 plays and they kick a game-winning field goal. That hurts. That sucks. But we saw it play out the way it did. They had that 1 4th down. They had that 1 3rd down. Otherwise, the Chiefs just with ease. Actually on the 3rd and 4th downs, the biggest crunch time plays, those were the plays that they capitalized the best. 3rd down, first was the 4th down. They do the little RPO with Travis Kelce, like lead blocking, but also if somebody were to tackle Mahomes, he would have just forked it up to Travis Kelce. It was a guaranteed 1st down. They called the timeout, which that's another thing I want to say. 3rd and 4, the Niners had 3 timeouts. If there was an issue with protection or anything, gotta call timeout, man. This is the play of the game. The Chiefs get their play of the game, 4th and inches, timeout, right? They call their timeout. They go, they talk. Oh, let's do our little, Mahomes RPO thing. They do it, perfection. That was like what felt like a 30-yard run from Mahomes. Absolutely insane. I thought he was going to slide. He kept running. He was like, go ahead, hit me. I'm getting as many yards as I can because this is the time to do it, right? That's why he's Mahomes. And then 3rd down after that, right? Wilkes sends the house, and Rashee Rice is running up the side on the crosser. Easy, right? Right when Fred Warner might almost get there, Mahomes just, it's like it's nothing to him. And then nobody else is there. Travis Kelce was right there to block the nearest corner, 20-yard play. All of a sudden, we're in the red zone. You can feel all the hopes and dreams fizzling out of your body. Within 2 or 3 plays, it's over. It's like, oh man, I just the thing for me is like that 3rd and 4, 4th and 4. Again, you can kick the field goal or you can try to get the touchdown. If you get the touchdown, that touchdown doesn't end the game, right? That game-winning touchdown doesn't end it. It's, do they go for 2? Can we block that extra point? You know, that's
Yeah. Kansas City said they would have went for 2, and I'm assuming that the play that they won the game on is the play that they would have used to, for the 2-point conversion. So, I think you mentioned something about taking the ball first. I think the biggest issue wasn't just, electing to receive the ball first. I think it's the rationale behind it. I mean, obviously the biggest issue is that they got the ball first and didn't score the touchdown and, and gave it up. They lost the game. That's the underlying issue. But I think that the reasoning why they did was dumb because, the 49ers decided that they wanted to have the ball first because it would give them the 3rd possession in overtime. Not even considering the fact that the Chiefs, if they score that 2nd touchdown to match it, or whatever, that they were just going to go for 2 and win the game.
right. Yeah, no, the fact that their idea was, we want the ball first because we're going to score. Our defense is going to limit them to whatever we need them to limit to. And then we're going to get the sudden death play. It's like, okay, well, first off, you could score a touchdown on the first drive. The Chiefs have sudden death, right? And they can go and score 2 and on 2-point conversion, and it's over. The game's over. They won. That right there already eradicates the 3rd, sudden death drive idea. I started laughing as you were talking because I just imagined, let's just say the Niners scored touchdown on that opening drive. Imagine if the camera caught like Kyle Juszczyk and Eric Armstead streaking on the field, like, yeah, we won. And you like, everybody's like, what are they doing? As the Chiefs are getting ready to go on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
that would have been something for sure. But, I think I do see the logic if you make the stop and force them to a field goal after getting the field goal, because then you get the ball back and, you're going to potentially kick a game-winning field goal after that, right? Or does it go until the quarter ends if it's just field goals? I'm assuming the 3rd possession is just the final one.
The 3rd possession is final unless nobody scores, but the 3rd score is final, basically.
No matter what it is, if it's Niner field goal, Chiefs field goal, and then Niner field goal.
Yeah. So if it were field goal, that the next score would have won. It could have been a safety, it could have been a field goal, pick 6, whatever. The next score would have won the game. That's sudden death.
Mm-hmm. I guess like the only reasoning to having, to getting the ball first was that Kansas City just took the Niners defense on a long drive right before the end of regulation. And they were getting gashed.
Yep.
And the Niners defense, it was so many plays and you can tell that they were exhausted. They played a hell of a game. They played their asses off. And credit to Nick Bosa. He had, people gave him crap all season because he just got paid and everything. He had, one of the best games of his career. And the other best game of his career was arguably the other Super Bowl. So Nick Bosa shows up when it's time. But
yeah, I was going to say really quick, just because you're kind of on the topic. I thought some of the players of the game, obviously I mentioned Juwan Jennings, Nick Bosa. I noticed it felt like every other play he was putting pressure on Mahomes, and that was huge. And he was a big part of that first half where the Chiefs only scored 3 points. I think Nick Bosa was a huge part of that. I thought Javon Hargrave. Go ahead.
Chase Young as well. Chase Young as much crap as everybody gave him last week, Chase Young, I think, had a much better game with a lot better effort this game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought Javon Hargrave had a couple of big plays. Every time Ayuk got a pass thrown at him, great. You
Mhm.
know, obviously McCaffrey, he was practically half the offense that wasn't Brock Purdy, which is another guy. I thought Purdy had a hell of a game, and he just looked calm and collected as usual. And I think, God, it just fucking pisses me off. Like I wanted you guys to win, and I wanted more than anything the Chiefs to be humbled. I wanted the cameras to just not be on Taylor Swift. I wanted it to be on you guys. And anytime that the camera was on Swift or the Chiefs, it was them sad, mad, upset.
Mhm.
And instead we got what we got. But
Yeah.
man,
Uh,
yes,
yeah,
Chris
Chris
Conley.
Conley. Chris
Dude,
Conley.
every time that punt, that tackle on the punt return where he
Mhm.
grabs him with one arm and just like pulls him back. I was like, oh my God. And that was after a big third down catch that he had. Another guy that had a great game, in my opinion, was Juszczyk. Every time
Mhm.
his number was called, he was great. I think the one guy that I'm so glad he said number 84 because I would have totally forgot about Conley.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He was a guy that I was thinking about. But the one big question to me that I'm like, what the hell happened was George
Debo?
Kittle.
Oh,
No, Kittle. What the
I
fuck?
think both. But my thing with Kittle is I think that they used him to block a lot. That's typically what happens. He gets like lost. He gets lost at the line of scrimmage just blocking, and then
Yeah,
you know.
I agree. I couldn't help but sit there watching the game, and I was telling my uncle, who's a Niner fan, I'm like, man, and I'm no head coach, I'm no offensive coordinator, but my thinking was, man, I would develop the run, especially in the first half, right? Come out in the second half, develop the run more. I like you said, I texted you, CMC time, baby, let's go. I would have developed the run, hopefully succeeded with the run, and then you can really start developing play action. And you get that play action going where it looks like Kittle's going to block, and then he goes and runs, and hopefully nobody's on him. 40 yards, 60-yard touchdown, right? That's what it's kind of been. He's that secret weapon where it's like he's probably the best blocking tight end in football. He also had the best yards per reception this season for a tight end. They didn't utilize him. They just blocked. And then he gets hurt in overtime. Like what must have been the first fucking play. I was just like, oh my God, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, no, it wasn't a great game for Shanahan play calling for sure. And I've got a stat for you that I kind of want to bring up, and then I do want to get to these comments that that everybody has been generous to be sharing their thoughts. But so Kyle Shanahan has been in 3 Super Bowls now, right? Kyle Shanahan has been outscored 58-12 in the fourth quarter / overtime in 3 Super Bowls. He has scored 12 points through 3 Super Bowls in the fourth quarter and overtime.
Yeah, clearly it's not enough.
Mm-hmm. And granted, I think 21 of those points were from the Patriots or maybe even more, in the fourth quarter of that one Super Bowl. So he's not in charge of the defense. And really, he's not even that much in charge of the defense. It seems like Steve Wilks is like, the head honcho over for, calling the defense and everything, but Kyle Shanahan has like final say if he thinks it's like a mistake, like he thought that one play was in overtime. Yeah. But I mean, you could tell that the 49ers were not prepared for that overtime. And it was just unfortunate to see the way that it ended. So there was one more thing that I think I was going to say. Oh, yeah. The reasoning for getting the ball first wouldn't be to get that third possession. Oh, no, I told you. To rest the players.
I thought it was just that was my first thought. Like I was trying to come up with a good excuse for Shanahan. I was like, okay, the defense did just get gassed. I can just imagine Fred Warner's out there like doing the coin toss, like heads, or whatever. No, but
tails
or tails. It was tails, yeah. Which, it worked, I guess. But I will say one thing before we get into the comments. Assuming this is kind of the last thing we're going to do before we move on to the next segment, is the comments. the big play for me. First off, the McCaffrey fumble in the beginning, you mentioned it, completely destroyed that opening drive. And you know how there's always that opening game script for an offense? Like Shanahan and the offense was moving down the field, absolutely going down the field. I was like, they're going to score a touchdown. And then firmly grasp it. If you saw Patrick Starr on the Nickelodeon telecast, McCaffrey fumbles. And I was just like, on the opening drive in the Super Bowl, McCaffrey oh my God. But then Pacheco, the Chiefs get in the red zone and Pacheco fumbles, and I was just laughing my ass off. But then here's my thing. The game killer for me, and it's such a freak play that honestly never really happens. And I'm so shocked that it doesn't happen more, was that fumble, or whatever you want to call it, on the punt return.
We didn't even talk about it. Oh my God.
Absolute killer.
The
very next play. Yeah. Sorry, the next play, the Chiefs score a touchdown because they get the ball in the red zone. Yeah. And it's like, what the hell?
The only touchdown that the Chiefs scored in regulation was the next play off of that botched punt or punt return.
And it felt like after that the Chiefs got momentum, Yeah. And it's a freak play that got them that. And I saw a tweet about it. Like somebody tweeted, probably a Niner fan, was like, man, if it wasn't for that botched punt return, fumble recovery for the Chiefs, the Niners win this game. And I was sitting there, it was before bed last night, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, 100%. And then the first comment was some probably Chiefs fan that was like, well, Pacheco fumbled in the red zone earlier, so it kind of evens out. And I was like at first I was like, I guess. And I was like, no, fuck you. McCaffrey fumbled. Fuck you. Yeah, I was like, dude, that punt return completely turned the game. Just completely. Absolutely. Because the next play, the Chiefs scored. Absolutely horrible. Just
it was a momentum shifter. And so, to Steve Wilkes' credit, the only touchdown that they gave up to Mahomes and the Chiefs in regulation was, it was a one-play drive after that, after the punt, hit off of Darrell Luter Jr., right? And then it sort of forced Ray McCloud to have to jump on it. It was like, at first I thought it was on Ray, and then I saw, no, Ray is making a heads up play. He saw it bounce off of his, off his guy. But the thing is, okay. So this is one thing that drives me insane. I've been saying it all year to Pia's dad, and he and I both agree on this. Why is it that the punt returner is clearly not going to catch the punt, or he's already called for a fair catch, or he's just yelling, poison, Peter, whatever you want to call it. Get away from the ball. Yep. Get away. Run away.
Oh, they probably put the camera on Taylor Swift after that. They should have put the camera on the Niners special teams coordinator, absolutely chewing out number, was it 28?
Mm-hmm.
And granted, again, it feels like a freak thing, but I'm sitting there that night, before bed. Again, it felt like my team lost. I'm just laying there in bed, all I could think about was this play or that play, and God damn it, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Fuck. But I couldn't help but think, why? Why couldn't he get out of the way? And it should be taught by the special teams coordinator. Ray McCloud should be pointing out poison, whatever he's saying. That guy should be sprinting to the sideline. Get the fuck out of there, because the ball's coming at you, and if it touches you, it's a free for all. And my initial reaction was, God damn it, dude. Because in slow motion, things kind of look more clear than it really is. In the moment, it's fast, But in slow motion, you get the replay, and it looks like Ray McCloud is trying to catch it, pick it up while running. And it's like, dude, you got to jump on it. You got to jump on that thing. But again, I saw it in slow motion. It's like, well, hindsight 2020, right? I just wish McCloud got the ball, man. That, ugh.
Yeah, if he gets the ball, we're talking about an entirely different ball game. Yeah. But, that definitely killed momentum on the 49ers side because they were about to get the ball back, and they were just like Mahomes and the Chiefs couldn't crack the code yet.
Yeah, and we already gave our thoughts on the missed extra point by Moody. I wish he kicked it higher. I don't know why he kicked it so low, but I don't think that destroyed the game. I think that punt return fumble, that's what did you guys in, man. Oh.
Yeah. Right. I even texted you, because there's always that heartbreaking moment.
Yep. You did.
And there's the new heartbreaking moment. If it's not that final play, you know what I mean? The walk-off touchdown.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the ultimate heartbreaker, but let me see. I want to see it. I want to see exactly what you texted me. When it went to overtime, you texted me, "We're in the end game now."
Yeah, and we were, but actually, we were technically in Infinity War still, or actually, no, we were in Endgame. It's just that this time Thanos won again.
Yeah. So you texted me, just found the new heartbreak moment after the punt fumble, and my response was, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah. So let's get to some comments. PS said it was meant to be. On the thumbnail I have it was or wasn't meant to be. Oh man, like the thing is sort of after the game I felt like this is the least pain that I felt after a playoff or a Super Bowl loss. You know what I mean? Like I have a good life outside of football. There's more to life than just, football. As much as I enjoy watching football and love it so much, I've got a great relationship, got great family, there's a lot to look forward to in life besides football. But, then I start to think about it like later. It's not the game that's like that really kills me. It's the big picture. I don't know what this means for the 49ers moving forward because windows only last so long. Other teams catch up, and the Niners superstars have already been getting older and older as time goes on. And, it'll just be interesting to see, what's going to happen further. And we'll have a topic for that. We'll talk about that. But Super Bowl 58 was not meant to be for the 49ers. I really wish it was, and that we could have gotten revenge on Mahomes. But I mean, what more can I ask for? Like my team, they got another crack at Mahomes. Like, they essentially, you took 2019 and you just put it back with like an upgraded offense. You know what I mean? Slightly downgraded defense. And then we did talk about Dre Greenlaw. I couldn't believe we came back from commercial break and Tony Romo and Jim Nantz were like, "You're not going to believe what just happened off the screen." And I was like, "Oh God, what happened? Like, did somebody yell at someone? Like, are the Chiefs fighting again?" And that's the thing that kills me, dude. The Chiefs weren't even like together as a team. Like you saw they were pouting at each other, yelling at each other all game. And then like the thing is, they just deserved it in the end because at the end of the day, you just have to respect Mahomes and Andy Reid. Like they just, it's almost like we're witnessing the 49ers of the 80s, but again, and we're just the Cincinnati Bengals this time. We lost in their first Super Bowl and we lost in their third. Like that's, it's just, sometimes history repeats itself, but you're on the other end of it, so
yeah,
that sucks.
That thing you put on the screen earlier with, Juszczyk talking about how the Niners thought overtime went versus, whatever the linebacker's name is from Kansas City, Tranquil, saying like, yeah, we have meetings about this like twice for the Super Bowl, once every playoff game. It's just clear to me that, one team was better prepared for this. And, one team has that previous championship, level to them where it's like, they're just built for it and they know what to expect and they've been through it. Right. Mm-hmm. Another thing, you just mentioned, Mahomes and Andy Reid. I'll give you another name, Steve Spagnuolo. I think I'm starting to realize that the Andy Reid and Spags combo is just plain and simply lethal. And when you add Patrick Mahomes to that, it's borderline unfair, clearly,
Mm-hmm.
And then my last point here, and I'll let you keep going with the comments. I was looking through our text some more, and I brought up a point. It was before overtime. I want to say it was the last drive of the game. Or no, the last Niners drive of the game. In regulation. Maybe it was overtime. One of the two. Honestly, don't know. Oh no, okay, it was in regulation. I'm terribly sorry, but Karlaftis. I don't know what his first name is.
George
Karlaftis. George Karlaftis. He gets his hand injured, and he sat down on the field.
Yeah, his pinky.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you can walk off. They did that to take a breather. He did that to take a breather. And it's clear.
I texted that to you. I was like, dude, he's just getting his defense time to breathe. That's bullshit. They should be. I mean, obviously you can't, but man, I'd be like, pick his ass up and get him out of here. You can walk, you can go. That was bullshit, dude.
And then he tried to get back in the game after it, and they were like, no, you got to go back. You got to go to the sideline.
Yeah. I was like, man, that's the Chiefs. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, no, we've talked about that kind of stuff before on people faking injuries to catch a breather and not use a timeout. That to me was clear. I'm glad that you brought that up. Another thing I wanted to talk about was just kind of the mindset that the 49ers had going into this game. Like, the Chiefs were clearly the more relaxed team. The 49ers committed a lot of penalties, which set them back on a lot of drives. They were playing dude, it felt like first, second and 15 on almost every single drive in the middle of the game. It was man, the 49ers are playing second and third and a mile every drive. And it's you're not going to win the football game playing like this. They almost did, but they didn't.
And then when the Chiefs would get in those positions in, the final drive of regulation or overtime, they somehow still got first downs. It was dude, what the fuck? And then actually the last thing I'm going to say, two things. One, that overtime drive, 3rd and 4, right? 2 or 3 plays before that, the Niners got a penalty. I don't know if it was a false start. I think it was holding, right? It was 2nd and 2, and then it became 2nd and 12. Remember that?
Was that the Trent Williams hold? No. Before. No. That the opposite side of the field.
Or end of the regulation. No, sorry. Overtime. Final drive.
Was that the false start on Ayuk? And I didn't see him move. There was a false start on Brandon Ayuk, and I didn't see him.
There was. No, he kind of leaned. He barely leaned. I saw that one, but that was earlier in the game. But at the end of the final, Jesus Christ, the final drive for the Niners on offense, they were driving. They just got the Christian McCaffrey big, pass play where he did the nice little, hip step and then took off. That was a great play. I was yelling, absolutely yelling. And then they get first down and they get an 8-yard gain. And then it was 2nd and 2. And I think they got a play off, but then it got called back on a holding penalty on the offensive line. I want to say it was somebody on the right side. Could be wrong. But
I think you're right.
So then it's 2nd and 12. I was just sitting there like, oh my God, that just felt like a momentum killer. And then you get 3rd and 4. They bring the house, 4th down, they kick a field goal. That fucking penalty, dude. That's another killer. That was a killer for the offense, man. Damn it. And then my last point. I keep moving my fucking chair, and it keeps making noises. I'm about ready to throw my chair right now. So if you guys see any clear emotion here, it's not just that I'm upset about the game. I'm also upset because my chair keeps making noises, and it's starting to piss me off.
We don't even hear it.
There it goes.
Oh, well, I hear it a little bit,
good.
But yeah. But I think it's fine. My chair makes
weird
a lot of
squeaks,
noise too.
It's my chair.
Or mine.
Anyways.
But okay. I feel like the Chiefs blitzed a lot in this game. And I would have loved, remember, Mike, I've been saying this all year. If the 49ers want to win a Super Bowl, Kyle Shanahan has to be better at in-game adjustments. And literally, it seemed like he was just running plays that he had already planned to run in this game. If they're going to be blitzing a lot up the middle, the perfect thing to do is put the ball in the offensive player of the year's hands away from the box. You can't tell me that they did run a play outside. I want to say they got Williams in
Yep.
on the edge
Yep.
running, and he had like a
Yep.
running head
Lead
start.
blocking.
Yeah, lead blocking, and they picked up a ton of yards on that. Like, I would have loved to see them get the ball out in space a little bit more on the outside, run away from the defense
Yeah.
who's going to be clogging up the middle.
I kept saying to my uncle during the game, like, man, like I texted you, man, it's CMC time. And I started to understand their lack of running up the middle because Chris Jones and that D line was just destroying that shit. And I was like, okay, well, this is a zone rushing team. We can run it outside too, right? Or better yet, we can do a screenplay where we throw it to Debo or McCaffrey with lead blockers in front of them, and it'll be a gain because that's what the Niners do. And it just like they hardly did it. And then when they finally did that play, the Chiefs sent the house, and this one actually worked out in the Niners' favor, was that big overtime Christian McCaffrey play where Purdy just got it off in the perfect nick of time, right? Throws it over. Nobody's there to catch him. What was that, like a 50-yard play? I don't know. But it's just like, man, I couldn't help but think, like, especially those 3 and outs in the third quarter, it was like just scheme somebody either open or with blockers. That's all you have to do. I know it's not that simple, but like for this offense, it kind of is because they're so damn good at that shit. Just do what you're good at. And it felt like Shanahan was just being so, like, his play calling is so vanilla, you know? I don't know. It was just weird, especially in the second half. But
the best play of the game was when he ran a trick play.
Right. And it was the best play ever. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, dude. But
yeah. So Anthony says Shanahan is a choker. That's definitely the trend. That's been the trend. And, Andy Reid was a choker until he wasn't. But Andy Reid didn't win until he got a change of scenery. And, I mean, unless the 49ers just have, I would have accepted Jim Harbaugh stepping in for Shanahan, Jim Harbaugh coming back. But I don't know who would step in to replace Shanahan that I would rather have. So another thing that I wanted to say, it's not even just Shanahan. Jed York, also lost a Super Bowl, before Shanahan ever came here. And, obviously Jim Harbaugh, the coach that I want, was the one that lost that Super Bowl. But the 49ers before Jed York, did you know, Mike, they were 5-0 in Super Bowls? And now with Jed York as the
5-3.
CEO of the team, they're 0-3. 0-3 with Jed York.
Yeah.
And so, I refused to talk about this last week or, the week prior, like when the news came out. But did you know that Jed York gave like a press conference? I don't remember if I talked to you about it. Oh, no, I did.
Yeah.
And he's over here reminiscing about, how great insight Kyle Shanahan had, like, on Brock Purdy and everything. And it's like, now's not the time to be reminiscing. And he said if the 49ers would have lost to the Lions, it still would have been a successful season. And he's just talking about how great everything is, like with Shanahan and everything. And it's like, you weren't scheduled to have this interview. This is the wrong time to be doing this. You're sending a message to your entire team that it doesn't matter if you win the Super Bowl. Everything's all fine. You're good with the results. And it used to be, I think that, I saw a quote earlier from Jed York, after they fired Harbaugh. No, it might have been after they fired Chip Kelly. And, he said that he was going to figure it out. No, I think it was after they fired Harbaugh. But, it was something along the lines of they don't hang Super Bowl they only hang Super Bowl banners. They don't hang the NFC West, championship banners. They don't hang NFC champion banners. And he's going to do whatever he can to get this team back on track. So I think the back on track part might have been after Chip Kelly. He's going to do everything in his power to get this team back on track. And it all starts with him. And whenever they don't win, whenever they're not back on track, to hold him accountable. Jed, I'm holding you accountable. You literally are you have one job, and that's to deliver a Super Bowl to the fan base. You still have not done that yet. They haven't won it's going to be 30 years until they won, or since they've won. And so, you have an underachieving coach, because let's be honest, everybody says that Kyle Shanahan is a genius. Everybody, he's so gifted, he's got this brilliant mind, but in the biggest games, he doesn't show up, and just play the exact same way on how he got there. And he almost coaches against himself, because he's like, all right, the teams are going to sell out to stop the run. I better start passing. That didn't stop him when the Packers knew that the 49ers were going to run every single play in the NFC Championship game, except for 8 pass plays that they ran in 2019. Shanahan, I don't know. Sometimes he does get in his own way. At a certain point, he's either going to win a Super Bowl, or I don't know. It almost feels like he's tenured. Jed York, you signed Shanahan and John Lynch to extensions after you beat the New York Giants in Week 3. What was the rush? Mike's over here laughing. That it's laughable. You sign extensions after Super Bowls, or clearly something went right this season. I don't know. Beating the New York Giants was not an accomplishment. I don't know what warranted, the extension at that time. But it all starts from the top. And when you set the example, when you're leading by example, showing everybody that the results are not championship based. And that's the difference between these 49ers and the 49ers back then. Eddie DeBartolo wanted to do everything in his power. Whatever you needed, he was going to get you, so that way you could win Super Bowls. Bill Walsh, whatever you need, I'm going to get it for you. Joe Montana, whatever you need, I'm going to have it ready for you. The players, their families were taken care of. And I'm not saying Jed York is a bad owner, but he just has these moments right before something great is going to happen, where he takes all the attention and he puts it on himself. And then he did it again during Super Bowl week, where I think he talked to Kay Adams. And it's like, stop, Jed, get out of the way. It's not about you. Make it about you after. You can take the credit after they win, but let them win first. Because when you make it about yourself, you're taking away from what the team is trying to accomplish. And it's not even just that. He could have came out and said, did his interview and said, all right, job's not finished. We'll really talk, we'll have time to reminisce, if we win the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. But no, he's like, Shanahan has done such a great job. When he messed, like essentially translation, he messed up on Trey Lance, but it doesn't matter. He messed up, and Mr. Irrelevant is his best quarterback, and it's a good thing. It's not a good thing. He messed up and still hasn't won a Super Bowl. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about Jed York. So, but let me get back to some comments, before I blow a gasket. Thrash, thank you for tuning back in. Says, hey, everybody. Pia says, I don't know what's worse, losing or constantly seeing Taylor, Kelsey, and Mahomes everywhere. Losing is much, much worse. It's not even I could care less who we lost to. We lost to the Ravens several years ago, and I think the Ravens one hurt the most because that was the first time that we lost. Fonzie said, what's up, guys? Fonzie, thank you for tuning back in and, being very consistent to showing up to most of our streams. We appreciate the support. Hashtag bang bang. Fonzie said, yesterday hurt, but I'm happy. I wish I could say the same in terms of the 49ers. I'm not happy. It's sad times. Fonzie said, I'm proud of our team. It was a heartbreak, but I'm still so proud. like, I will say, like, what hurts the most is like this might be one of the worst losses in franchise history because of the implications that it has after. You know what I mean? Like this is up there with, I'm assuming, the Roger Craig fumble game where they could have, gone back to the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game. I wasn't around for that. But I've heard that game mentioned. This is probably up there with the Kyle Williams game, but this is in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And they had the best weapons, and they couldn't get it done.
You know what? I feel like this one might hurt the most. I understand the first one for you hurting against the Ravens so terribly, but I feel like, man, if I were in your shoes, I'd be like, third time's a charm. Like I'd be going in like, this has to be it, man. I mean, I've gone through this twice. I can't go through this a third time. And I mean, you're up 10-0 near the end of the first half of the game, and it just feels like up until that punt fumble, the Niners had control of this game, man. And it's like, that's why I was saying, like, it's CMC time, man. Like, start developing the run, controlling the clock, own the time of possession, keep Mahomes on the sideline, and control this game. Score touchdowns, get two possessions ahead, and they just couldn't fucking do it. And then on top of that, the major kick in the ass is after the game, you hear your players saying, yeah, we didn't quite know the rules of overtime in the playoffs. It's like, oh my God, dude, they're just like, this might be fucked up or whatever because it's coming from a Raider fan, but it's like, that almost makes it feel like they didn't deserve it, And I hate to say that because ready. Like they weren't ready or whatever it is. It's like I was so hyped and ready for them to win this game and beat the Chiefs and humble their ass and all that shit. And then it's like they essentially blow it, and they give Mahomes the opportunity to have another legacy drive at the end of the game. Really had two, and it's like, well, there goes the chance of humbling them. Mm-hmm. Now they're all, they're. I'm not going to say that, but just on top of that, you have the players and the coaches just almost making a fool of themselves, and it's like, man, it was right there. Yeah, but
it was right there, and then the 49ers didn't. They let the Chiefs hang around, and when you let an all-time great quarterback hang around, he's going to do all-time great quarterback things. And this was honestly what was more impressive, Mahomes' comeback a couple of years ago, or the way he carried his team in overtime this time?
I think. Oh, man. I mean, 4 years ago, the Niners defense was better, but it felt in this game like the Niners defense
was more dominant.
What? Well, you're saying Mahomes?
Mahomes.
I would say at the end of the game, yes.
Yeah.
Like that RPO thing where he ran for like 30 yards on 4th and 1. It's like,
yeah, God,
that's just Mahomes. And then on third down, blitz coming right at him, just, like it's nothing. Rashid Rice, 30 yards. It's like, that's just Mahomes, and then that game-winning play, that's just Andy Reid, and then the entirety of the game, that the Niners offense, that potent, star-studded offense, not being able to get more than, what did they score, 22? But I mean, the first half, 10 points, right? Second half, 9 points because it was 19 at the end of regulation, and then you field goal to make it 22. It's like, that's Spags. It's like the trio just showed up and got it done, and it's like, that's just the Chiefs, man. It's whatever.
Mm-hmm. Fonzie says it wasn't even the offense though; it was the defense. I think, the offense for the Chiefs played poorly in most of the game, but man, towards the end of the game, they could not get off the Niners defense couldn't get the Niners offense back on the field. The Chiefs offense was operating, and they had cracked some sort of code where Dre Greenlaw isn't in the game, so they can dump off to check downs or routes in the flat, slants. It was one of those. Paulina, shout out to Paulina, says, I could be wrong, but Mahomes and Kelsey are actually worse with how they act and how their crappy behaviors constantly gets overlooked. I could not. Oh my god, I could not stand. I was kind of like, man, there's no way the Chiefs are gonna win the Super Bowl when Travis Kelce went up and like nearly knocked over Andy Reid.
Yeah.
He like blindsided him and yelled in his face.
So, yeah, 1000%, dude. And that was something we didn't really mention earlier, and I'm glad that we are now. You know, that Raider game on Christmas, it's like they caught Kelce throwing his helmet like as hard as he could down at the ground, but it was like not directly down. It was like kind of like he threw a fastball and it almost hit somebody. And Andy Reid went out of his way to get his helmet and take it away so that Kelce couldn't go on the field the next play or whatever, or the next drive, just to kind of like, you know, tell him like, quit fucking around, you know, and whatever, like get your head straight, like quit acting up. And then what happened after that, they showed the replay. It was like Andy Reid kind of gave him a little shoulder bump, like a little friendly, you know, old guy, like, come on, dude, like, you know, get it together. And then Kelce goes on the field. Well, this dude, I'm like, I have never seen this. And that was the thing, was on Christmas, it was like, man, look at Kelce. Whoa, oh, geez. But we've seen players throw their shit before. I mean, baseball players, they throw their bat and they nearly hit their fucking coach and their teammates in the dugout. But this one, it was like any other player not named Mahomes does that to Andy Reid. Do you think he plays again on the Super Bowl? Fuck no. Mm-hmm. I was just like, this is such a like that was it was unprofessional. It's like I understand he's one of the all-time greats at tight end, but like I don't think anybody should be able to do that to their coach. Yeah. He was flustered because they were down 10-0, and he was like, you know, like probably telling him like, throw me the ball. Like, what are we doing? I think it was after the fumble. I think it was after the Pacheco fumble, and he was pissed off. Dude,
it's one of those things where if the Chiefs had lost this game, that would have been addressed. But winning cures everything. That they're not even going to talk about it, I bet. It's just like, that's what it takes to win.
Yeah, they asked Andy Reid after the game. He was just like, oh, I actually liked it. Oh, okay, sure.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, oh, it happens all the time. Okay, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, winning cures everything.
Good cover.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, winning cures everything. And I see Fonzie's comment here. I'm not going to put it on the screen because of how he described the Chiefs, but I saw this stat earlier that said that there were 7 fumbles and the Chiefs recovered 6 of them. You know, during the season?
Yeah, maybe during the season. But, I don't know. I mean, there weren't 7 fumbles in the game. I know that.
Yeah.
Like 3, but...
Paulina says, there are so many other NFL wives and girlfriends that do things that are actually useful. Yeah, you know, Kyle Juszczyk's wife has been, like, you know, sewing, like, designs together, and she didn't get her, like, you know, partnership or you know, whatever sort of business deal that she has with the NFL, you know, to now do like sell licensed products. She didn't get that until she made Taylor Swift, you know, a Travis Kelce jacket. So, you know, I'm glad that Christian Juszczyk is getting her flowers right now and, you know, like getting her publicity.
But here's a point. I'm sure she was at the Super Bowl. In fact, I know she was. I know she was at the NFC Championship divisional round, you know, playoff game. If we can show Taylor Swift 34 times throughout a fucking game, we can't show Juszczyk once, even pregame. Oh, let's talk about this cool story developing with Kyle Juszczyk's wife, Christian. Is it Christian?
Kristen.
I said, there you go. Yeah. That makes way more sense. I was like, that's kind of. But anyways, you know, here's a little segment on all the different jerseys she's made for different people, like Taylor Swift and Juszczyk and blah 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 blah, and like that. That's what the media is supposed to do, but instead it's like, what's going to get us the most views? That's all it is. It's the most capitalist thing ever, and Taylor Swift is at the top of that, and it's just a fucking food chain. It's really fucking annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like here's one thing I'll say is, you know, just watching Niner games, like I do see like when they would pan to Purdy's parents, especially last year, but I think that's because like, the story of Brock Purdy, there's no story with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift other than,
Famous.
other than she's famous, he's famous, and there's a romance going on, but
Yeah.
like
They try to make stories like let's put a prop bet on whether or not he'll drop to his knee after the game.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Also, Joel says, "What it do?" Joel, thank you again for tuning in. Even though we're talking Niners today, we'll get back to Raider talk. Coming up pretty soon. Maybe not this episode, but in a week or so.
The next.
Yeah, probably the next episode for sure. Joel says, "Sorry, Josh, for yesterday." Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Joel also says the not knowing rules is just an excuse. These players get paid millions to do their job. They should be prepared. It's the Super Bowl. It's not their job to
Teach it.
teach it. It's Shanahan's job. That falls on Shanahan 100%. The Chiefs had meetings. They didn't just like talk about the rules. They had meetings to prepare for this. And that's another thing I wanted to say is like the Chiefs seem like they prepared for every single scenario that could possibly happen. And like, they talked about how they practiced that play that they ran, to win the game. They had already practiced that play and, gone through it and everything. And I'm sure the Niners have something like that, but the preparation was just like out of this world. Like I'm just thinking they did not just have a meeting on this or just talk about it. They had meetings on several weeks. They took it seriously. And the 49ers were focused. They came into this game focused. And that's another thing I want to say. Early in the week, it didn't seem like they were focused. You had Charvarius Ward talking about he's going to turn up the first night or two. And Charvarius Ward played well, to his credit. He didn't give up a single catch.
Man.
He didn't give up a single catch. He played great. So it's not necessarily on Charvarius Ward. But Kyle Shanahan, I could be wrong. It would appear to me as if he was under the influence of alcohol, but I don't know for sure, so I can't say 100%, but it seemed like he was slurring his words, and it was not media night. Media night.
Yeah.
Media night, on Monday this past week, 1 week ago today. And maybe he wasn't drunk. Maybe he was just like, it was just a completely different Kyle Shanahan, that we had gotten. But I've been listening to this dude speak for like 7 years now.
Yeah.
I've been listening to him like nonstop. And he was like completely like, sometimes you get like, or most of the time you get nervous Kyle. That was not nervous Kyle. That was like, oh yeah, that wasn't my best moment. And like, a guy who is usually not critical of himself.
Yeah, usually he's very stern, and he was just so relaxed and like almost kind of joking around. Yeah. I know I saw the video too, and I think, yes, I agree with you. It seemed like he was not his usual self, to say the least.
Yeah. So, maybe it was alcohol, maybe it wasn't. Like I'm not going to say that for sure. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to have any problems with Kyle Shanahan in that regard. But, I definitely noticed something off. So don't know what it is, but that's just my guess. And if it's not, I apologize, Kyle Shanahan. Let's see. Joel said Kelce was losing his mind in the first quarter. Yeah, that we talked about that.
I mean, I wish the fucking Chiefs lost, man. It would have been so fun to just poke at that for the next 5-6 months of just the Chiefs like, melting down. But instead, we got
instead everybody can poke at the Niners. No, at the end of the day, though, there's 31 losers in the NFL, and we're just the
Oh.
highest level loser.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. 2 things really quick. One, I want to second what Joel said earlier. Like, I'm sorry to you. I'm sorry to all Niner fans. I feel horrible for you guys. I kind of explained it earlier. Having to see 3 Super Bowls, 3 straight Super Bowls, not, in a row, but over the course of 15 years or less, probably, having to watch these 3 completely different teams for the most part, besides, the last 2, they're kind of similar, but still big differences, Shanahan or McCaffrey and Purdy. But to have to watch all 3 of these teams lose the Super Bowl, gut-wrenching. Couldn't imagine it. You guys have witnessed 3 Super Bowl losses in this amount of time. In less time, I have only gotten to witness 2 playoff losses in the wild card round for the Raiders. You have witnessed 3 Super Bowl losses and at least 2 more championship losses, probably more, in that amount of time.
Since Shanahan or period?
Since Harbaugh.
Since
In your
Harbaugh.
life.
So with Harbaugh, I witnessed 2 NFC Championship game losses and a Super Bowl loss. With Shanahan,
Yeah.
I've witnessed
2 Super
we
Bowl
lost
losses.
2 Super Bowl losses and 2 NFC Championship game losses.
So total of 7 big-time losses between championships and Super Bowls.
Yep.
Gut-wrenching. Couldn't imagine it. Terribly sorry for you guys. I genuinely feel for you. If I wanted to almost film, it would have been cool if we filmed our reactions to certain plays and stuff. You could have seen how genuinely all for the Niners I was in this game, and it would have been cool if you guys had won to get fresh reactions of both of us witnessing them win the Super Bowl. But we couldn't get that.
I would have
other
cried.
thing that I wanted, dude, it would have been cool, man. My Uncle John, he's a big Niner fan. He was like, I just want to win this game. When they went to overtime, I just want to win this game, go outside and start honking my horn. Honking his truck horn. I was like, hell yeah, dude. But the other thing is I noticed a lot, specifically my Uncle John has friends on Facebook and stuff that were kind of taunting him during the game and especially after the game, I guess. Just a lot of Raider fans that just like you mentioned it last week, no matter who won this game, the Raiders are going to come out of it and go to somebody, and it's I get the Bay Area rivalry 100%, but this is the fucking Chiefs. If you're actually thinking about it as a Raider fan, you should come out of this game and go, fuck, not them, not the Chiefs. I get it. It as Bay Area fans, for me, it's I have family members that might push my buttons about my team won the Super Bowl. But I went into this game. I would have felt great about it. I would have been so happy for you guys. All that you guys have been through, like we just mentioned, how much bullshit, But these Raider fans that are the first thought is just to clown these Niner fans. It's dude, you're literally just a troll. You're literally just trolling, and it looks stupid. And what all it says to me is someday the Raiders are going to lose big playoff games, and Niner fans will be ecstatic to give it right back to you. And I know me personally, because I've only been through 2 wild card losses, when my team finally does get to the championship, get to the Super Bowl, and they fucking lose, I will be beside myself, a very angry person. God help whoever talks shit to me. Okay? God be with them, because I will lose my fucking mind on them. So to all the trolls out there, whether it's Raider fans or anybody else that wants to go and make fun of this whatever fan base because they lost, careful what you get back, in return, because karma, dude, karma. And I just, I don't know. I don't understand any Raider fan who actually cares. They should not be pulling for the Niners to lose this game against the Chiefs. Point being.
So do you remember a couple years ago, I think we were talking about the 2019 Super Bowl, and I was I was sitting on the couch right over here, and I was thinking to myself, I want to win the game because I want to be above just that shit talk. You know what I mean? I just want to when we lost, I'm well, it's back to no, your team sucks more. No, your team sucks. The little baby like elementary school like banter. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I wanted to be like, you know what? I like out of our friend group in fantasy football, I just want to, be like, I've actually witnessed my team win a championship, so I don't need to like, I don't have to like stoop to the level. And I hardly do. I hardly do. Like maybe I'll say something like maybe I'll even agree on something like, when they're like, "Oh, Shanahan blew it." Yeah, he did. And like,
Right.
sometimes people are like, "No, you're supposed to be mad." You know, just but like Tyler said something in the fantasy chat. I guess like before the game, like on the week leading up to the game, like when we were talking about like who everybody would want to win, and
Yeah.
he said if 49er fans win, they'll never let anyone forget about it, right? They'll be like unforgivable,
Yeah.
and I love Tyler, so I'm not talking shit about Tyler, but I will say
I know what you're gonna say.
it would have been it's the opposite. If we would have won the Super Bowl, or if we didn't win the Super Bowl, Tyler was not going to let us forget about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's how it was. No, I was sitting there. I swear to God, dude, I was reading the text after the game was over, and I was like, this is way worse than anything the Niner fans would have done. This is way worse. It was, for reference, for everybody watching, we have a group chat, our fantasy football league. It's full of Niner fans, Raider fans, a Cowboy fan, and a Charger fan. Tyler being the Charger fan, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We used to have a Philadelphia Eagle fan in there as well. Continue.
Yeah, so like I'm not going to say I wouldn't have celebrated the win, but I don't think I would. Like my first thought isn't to like talk shit to everybody who hasn't won. Like everybody hopefully will get their due. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
your first reaction would be like, "Oh my God, we did it!" You just be like, "Fuck yeah," or whatever. Like, "Let's fucking go!" Like you did. You ended the pod last time. That's all you would have done. You wouldn't have been like, "In your face, we have 6. What do you have?" It would have been none of that. It would have just been, I know exactly what it would have been. And then because you guys lost, it was like we had at least 3 people in our group chat just like, look at the Niners, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, just talking hella shit. I was like, I don't even think I did that. Like,
it's like
I'm not that type of person, I don't think. No offense to them. Like, I get it. It's sports. It's all fun and games. Yeah. But I don't know. My thing is, like I mentioned, be careful what you do because you're going to get it back. And if I were that type of person that's like, because this team lost, it's like when my team loses, I better expect it back,
Yeah.
Which is, again, for me, when my team loses the big game and I get that, I'm going to lose my mind because I'm over here like, I never do this shit. I never do this shit. I might do it to the random Chiefs fan on Twitter or something because it's hilarious and it's a division rival. It's expected. But like to a personal friend or family member, like you or my uncle or something like that, I just wouldn't do it because when my team loses, I better expect it back. So again, point being, because I don't do it, it's like if I get that someday, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, and then so like, I just want to emphasize Tyler's a great dude, one of my bros, right?
Yep.
I just want to make that very, very clear. But, I will say if he does honestly feel like Niner fans would never let him like forget about it, I think it's probably because he does nothing but like laugh at every other person's team, besides his own.
I'll tell you right now, the reason why he said what he said, and this is purely, hopefully if Tyler sees this, it's hilarious, but
yeah,
nothing against him. Again,
we love Tyler. We love Tyler.
We love Tyler. We love everybody in that group chat. It's all fun and games. It's hilarious. But the reason why he said, if the Niners win the Super Bowl, they'll be unforgivable. Like they'll just, they'll be unfathomable or whatever he said. Like they'll just be so yada yada annoying and whatever. That's because if he wins the Super Bowl, that's how he'll be.
Yeah.
He's expecting it in return. That's what it is. Just like me, how I expect my shit to be brought back in return. I was taught at a young age, treat people the way you want to be treated. Right? So Tyler acts the way that he does with sports. He fully expects it in return. So if his team wins, it's going to be nonstop. Chargers are the best team ever. Best team ever. Herbert is a god, blah, blah, blah. If you guys win, it's just going to be like, thank God we finally did it. Oh,
Yeah. And
if
then
Mikey wins,
just
thank God.
to paint the picture, also where Tyler is expecting it back, it's because he already constantly bags on the other teams. Like, it's all fun in games though. Like, it's not serious. But
I think he
it's
loves
just so
it.
funny. Every single time the Raiders lose a game, it's
Oh.
all caps.
Raiders.
Yeah. Every
Yeah.
and then like it was like the same thing. The Niners lost the Super Bowl, and he posted something on his story, and it was like, bang bang Niner gang, and then he was like screw the Chiefs though, and then like the capital ha,
Yeah.
like I know he gets a kick out of it, so like he's just enjoying himself. It's sports, it's friendly stuff, but yeah, I want to one day see my team win. And it's not even just that, like, to see them win. It's like I could have been the first to see my team win out of all my friends. So,
Oh, and we had our fucking deal, and that's just in shambles now.
Yeah.
So now anything goes for the Raiders.
Yeah.
I still hope they win it in Levi's, but we'll see. God help us if it's the Chargers.
Paulina says, just to add, even though they lost to the Bills, just to add, even when they lost to the Bills and Mahomes was butthurt with Josh Allen, it still wasn't acknowledged. Yeah,
that was
worst
huge, dude.
call ever.
Yeah, that was when like that was well, the start of it was Mahomes' or Kelsey's mom, and then Kelsey getting with Swift. But then that game was like, that was the tipping point for me of like, God, I fucking hate this team. They can't take a loss, dude. They cannot take a loss. That's why I said humble them, because if they lose that Super Bowl, they have to walk off that field knowing that they lost that shit. And then it's all about Kelsey and the way that he acted. Mahomes in that Bills game in the regular season, he acted like a punk bitch, like a little kid.
Yeah, let's tone it down a little bit, Mike. Your blood pressure is like through the roof right now. So you're at about a 9 right now. I'm gonna need you to take it down to like a 6. But I will say, man, what kills me too is that the 49ers could have prevented this. They we had them by the throat in 2019, and we let off the gas pedal, and we choked. And say what you want about the holding calls and all the stuff that occurred, that allowed the Chiefs to get back in that game. But if the Chiefs don't win that Super Bowl and they get back in 2020 and they lose another Super Bowl, they're 0-2, and Andy Reid still has not gotten over the hump. And it's definitely a mental thing at that point. And then Mahomes is probably in his head, like, imposter syndrome. Like, think about like James Harden in the NBA. Like James Harden, as soon as it started piling up, like Shanahan's dealing with that right now.
Oh,
it's
sure.
like, will this guy ever get it done? So the 49ers had an opportunity to stop this years ago, and they had an opportunity to humble them and set the record straight 2-2 in the Super Bowl. Mike, in a way, the 49ers have created a monster.
They certainly helped. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know if I said it earlier, but in the 3 Super Bowls that the Chiefs have won with Mahomes, in all 3 of them, they were down 10 points at one point in these games. 2019, they were down 20-10 with like 8 minutes to go, whatever it was. Last year against the Eagles, they were down 24-14, and they come back and win. And then this year, of course, 10-0 in the first or second quarter. It's like, and that's, I said it, I think last week, it's like there are so many Super Bowls that were like 1-score games where it's like, man, these teams that win get remembered forever as legends. And like, in hindsight, it's like, oh, clearly they deserved it. They won the game. When it's like, dude, these Super Bowls are so close. That entire game, this Niners-Chiefs game, it was so back and forth, overtime. Like, this Niners team will not be remembered in 10 years. And that's unfortunate because they a fucking punt, a punt return changes that completely.
Mhm.
Like, I'm sorry, my blood pressure's going back up. Oh my god.
No, you're good. You're good. You like right now you're at a 6. You're at a 6.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Or maybe at a like 8 or
I'd say
7.5.
7.5. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like if we're saying acceptable blood pressure level, you know, you're
I'm almost.
you're right on.
Yeah, when I'm talking about Mahomes losing to the Bills, it's like almost Planet of the Apes mode.
Yeah. Tony says, really wanted the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. I truly feel your pain. So close. I'm pissed. And this is coming from a Cowboys fan. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
And I completely second his statement, and that's coming from a Raider fan.
Yeah. So, you know, it is what it is, Tony. We appreciate that you know, you were backing us in the Super Bowl. And you know, if you want to back us next year, we'll appreciate that support too. So yeah. Number 8, which I'm assuming this is my little cousin, says it sucks when people start talking because the Niners lost. At school, all the Raider fans are going to be glazing me. Yeah.
Blazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So funny story. I was wearing this jacket on the story that I'm going to tell you. I probably told this story last week, but as soon as the 49ers lost the Super Bowl when I was in middle school, I was in 8th grade, so probably the same age as my cousin. I was talking smack, and I thought like, you know, the Niners were going to win the Super Bowl against the Ravens. And it wasn't just, I wasn't talking smack just to talk smack, but my friend Brian was a Falcons fan in middle school, right? And so the Niners were playing the Falcons in the NFC Championship game, and the Niners came back from down 17. And, you know, I probably had my comments for him, and I was like, oh man, we're going to go all the way. We're going to beat the Ravens, right? And he's like, no, you're not, right? And then the day after the Super Bowl, you know, I was in 8th grade. The day after the Super Bowl, the Niners lose. I go to school, and I'm still wearing Niners stuff because I'm still proud to be a Niner fan, even after I lose. I'm not one of those guys that's like, you know, just gonna like turn my back on the team. Like I'm here for life. I go and I'm walking, and it's first thing in the morning, and Brian from across the quad goes, "Hey Josh, what happened?" And it just echoed, and like, you know, it's one of those things. I'm pretty sure I talked about it last week, but yeah, you know, especially when you're in school, you're not going to be able to run away from it. So just the best thing to do is just like whatever.
Don't wear Niner gear.
Yeah. No, I mean you can still, yeah. Don't wear Niner gear. If you don't want a single comment coming your way, don't wear it. But if you're still proud to be a 49er fan, I mean, wear what you want to wear.
Yeah, actually, I would say wear your Niner gear, and if they say anything, just say, "Was your team in the Super Bowl?"
Yeah. Lucas says, I'm a former Dolphin fan, now repping the SF 49ers now. I get a bandwagon pass being a Dolphin fan for over 20 years. I'm so sorry, Lucas. I'm so sorry. The only thing you know is pain. You know? Man. I feel like, okay, so you were a Dolphin fan for over 20 years.
If you would have said won a playoff game since.
If you would have said 40 years, I would have said, man, you should have been a Niner fan like, you know, 40 years ago at least. But yeah, I share the pain with you, man. We're gonna move on to our next topic. Huh?
I would just say last thing, because the Lions won a playoff game this year, it's now the Dolphins and Raiders as the 2 longest tenured teams without a playoff win. Over 20 years, I think, for both of them.
Did Cleveland win a playoff game?
Baker Mayfield against the Steelers a couple years ago.
Yeah. I forgot about that one. All right, so I've got a topic that I haven't even ran by Mike yet, except for just the title of it, and I said it was like a bonus topic. But I just want I got into like an investigative mode because I had heard a couple things about the number 3 in this Super Bowl. And I just wanted to point out every single coincidence that had to do with the number 3 and, just kind of, I want to get your reaction on all this, Mike, because this is actually crazy, right? So bear with me. So, and I'm not talking just about Ray McCloud as, the unlucky number 3. People typically associate 7 is the lucky number, but the unlucky number this year was 3. This is the 3rd Super Bowl that I've witnessed the 49ers in, and they're 0-3. Jed York is now 0-3 in the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan is now 0-3 in the Super Bowl. 1 in Atlanta, 2 in San Francisco. The 49ers passed on Mahomes with the 3rd pick in the 2017 draft, which was Shanahan's first season with the team. Shanahan was the 3rd 49ers head coach in 3 years. Mahomes passed for 333 yards and won his 3rd ring. Allegiant Stadium's address is 3333 Al Davis Way. The team that stadium is home to, the Raiders, has 3 Super Bowls. Christian McCaffrey's fumble was only his 3rd fumble lost this season. The 49ers held the Chiefs to 3 points in the first half. The 49ers were 3 of 12 on 3rd down in the game. The 49ers went 3 and out on 3 straight drives in the 3rd quarter. The Chiefs tie up the game with a field goal with 3 seconds remaining in regulation after being down 3. The 49ers scored 3 points in overtime. The Chiefs win the game by 3 with 3 seconds left in overtime. The player who caught the ball was Mecole Hardman, and that was his 3rd reception of the game. The player covering Hardman was number 33, Logan Ryan. Mecole Hardman is now the first player since Matt Snell in Super Bowl III to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl and play for the New York Jets in the same season. The Super Bowl winning Jets, that Super Bowl winning Jets team finished 13-3. So they only lost 3 games all year. Deebo Samuel and Brock Purdy both had 3 carries. Deebo Samuel also had 3 receptions for 33 yards. Brandon Ayuk also only had 3 receptions. Mitch Wishnowsky had 5 punts, 3 of which were pinned inside the 20-yard line. Jake Moody was 3 of 3 on his field goals. You know that muffed punt, Mike?
Yep.
It bounced off of number 28, Darrell Luter Jr., which forced number 3, Ray McCloud, the 3rd, to try to make a play and save it. And yes, Ray McCloud's full name is Ray McCloud III. So the ball went from 28-3, which was the largest lead in the Super Bowl that the Atlanta Falcons had when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. So it bounced off 28. Number 3 tried to save it. 28-3. Shanahan catching another stray. Isaiah Pacheco carried the ball 18 times for 59 yards. Do you know how many yards per carry that is?
3.3.
3.3 yards per carry. Pacheco also had 33 receiving yards in this game. The Chiefs had 3 wide receivers who had 3 receptions each. Mecole Hardman, Justin Watson, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Richie James Jr. averaged 3 yards per punt return. Do you want to guess how many sacks the Chiefs allowed?
3.
They allowed 3 sacks. And really, the offseason leading up to this season also shared parallels of 3. The 49ers decided to let 3 key defenders walk in free agency in order to pay Javon Hargrave, Jimmy Ward, Samson Ebukam, and Azeez Al-Shaair. The 49ers' first 3 picks in the draft all came in the 3rd round, and none of these picks addressed the 49ers' biggest position of need in the offensive line. The 49ers could have had right tackle Dawan Jones, who went to Cleveland around later. We looked at film of him, when the Niners played against Cleveland, and they call him Thanos, right? The 49ers made 3 trades this season. Do you know who those 3 players are?
This season, obviously, one being for the Commanders' defensive end,
Chase Young, who they traded a 3rd round pick for.
Okay. Yeah. Did they trade for a corner?
No.
Oh, geez. I don't know.
They traded for Randy Gregory.
Okay.
And then the 3rd player that they traded that I haven't named, Trey Lance, who they spent 3 firsts and a 3rd for. Right?
God, imagine if they had those picks. Ugh.
This was Super Bowl 58. If you subtract 5 from 8, what number do you get?
3. Plus, also, I'm pretty sure when you look at it, it's like LVIII, right? So it's like 3 eyes or whatever, I think.
Well, yeah, that's 3 in Roman numerals.
Right, I know. So it's like 55 plus 3.
Yeah. Well, it's actually it's 3 after 5. It's like
right.
Yeah. So
Roman numerals.
Yeah. Roman numerals are cool, but yeah, that was all I had for the unlucky number 3. I couldn't believe how many like parallels and kind of cool things, but it makes you wonder, dude, like just the coincidence, right? The one that really got me was like Nicole Hardman, the touchdown with 3 seconds left to put them up by 3, with the defender who was guarding him was number 33. That's what made me start looking. I'm like, all right, I got to see all the 3s in here. And then come to find out, Nicole Hardman, like I said, first player since Mitch Snell. And then that was in Super Bowl 3. That's nuts to me.
Yeah. Also, I know you mentioned like number 7 is usually a lucky number. 13 this year for the Chiefs was their lucky number. All the Taylor Swift banter, and they were like, what's 87 or what's 100 minus 87? 13. It's like all this shit. There was a funny video about it, but I'm not going to get any more into Taylor Swift. But yeah, no, that's a lot of interesting 3s to be put into this game, the Niners period. So,
yeah. And then after the game, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, and Ice Spice. I'll let you figure out what that has to do with the number 3. No, I'm just playing.
Good God.
Travis Kelce, please don't sue me, Taylor Swift. You guys won the Super Bowl. I've had enough torture. I'm gonna get back to some comments because that's all I really wanted to say about the unlucky number 3. It's just it's insane to me. Mm-hmm. And I sort of went on my like research earlier. Like I was kind of fixated trying to find everything I could, and I left out things that I felt like were reaches.
Right.
And I forgot to mention Jake Moody was drafted in the 3rd round. But yeah.
Wasn't Jair Brown also?
Oh yeah, the only player with the interception.
Yeah.
Oh my God, was drafted in the 3rd round.
Yep.
I didn't think about that. Lucas says the Niners should look at Mac Jones. Shanahan can make him fit his system perfectly. That's actually not a bad idea. If the Patriots want to part ways, with Mac Jones, I mean, the Niners were willing to trade 3 firsts and a 3rd to go up and get him, but decided on Trey Lance. So, I don't see why not. And then another name that I heard thrown out there that I think is an interesting idea, and I know Mike's not going to like this, is Zach Wilson. But you have to figure Zach Wilson has the physical abilities, and if Shanahan can just put, like I wonder if he could run Shanahan's system.
No, I think I can't help but think that any quarterback with like a high, draft, what do you call it, pick of the past is worth trying as a backup. And like this isn't quite the same, but I remember when Gruden first came onto the Raiders, he went out of his way to get Nathan Peterman as his like developmental quarterback. And like in the preseason, he looked pretty good. He was never going to be a starter in the league, but I get Gruden maybe thought, hey, why not try it? Because he saw the tools there, right? Guys like, especially Zach Wilson, but also Mac Jones. It's like, yeah, I think in Shanahan's system, they absolutely could have a shot at, getting a little bit of redemption. I mean, we saw it with Geno Smith most recently and like Baker Mayfield. You never know. You really never know. So it's worth it. And I said it, one of the first pods we had, I said, teams that succeed tend to be in the quarterback developmental
business.
Business. There you go. I was going to say system, but business. Yes. Like the Eagles with Carson Wentz and then eventually finding Jalen Hurts. It's like any Eagle fan would have said, why in God's name are we drafting a quarterback in the second round when we have actual needs? Well, did Carson Wentz last you more than like 2 years? Nope. After that, and then the same goes for I just had the team, but the Packers, it's like everybody was like, dude, we need receivers for Aaron Rodgers. What are we doing? Well, now Packers fans are elated to have Jordan Love. Right? That's the quarterback developmental business. That's what you got to do.
They could have still had Rodgers like to this day if they would have made him happy and like put a supporting cast around him. So maybe they jumped the gun a little bit on that, but maybe, I mean, but it's also looking to pay off for him right now.
I will say this about that. Yeah, I'll also say this: the Packers literally had to give Jordan Love his 5th-year option for this season just to see whether or not he was, worth keeping. Otherwise, like if Rodgers was their quarterback this year, they would have never known. They would have never known if he was ready to start. So it had to be this year. They found it out. They go to the playoffs. He plays great. He's clearly worth keeping. So if you keep Rodgers, you never have that answer. And then it's like, well, shit, what do we do with Love? And Love's sitting there like, well, what type of money do I get here? Like, I never played. I never got to prove myself, just like Trey Lance, right? It's like, that really sucks for him because it's like if he got to go out there and play, and if he did play good, he'd be getting paid. But instead, it's like in a year from now, Dallas might re-sign Trey Lance probably. He's going to get backup money because he's never getting to prove himself. Mm-hmm. That would have been the same thing with Jordan Love.
I'll say this. What I meant was like not taking Jordan Love at all probably would have kept Rodgers in town. If they would have picked like a receiver, they could have picked Justin Jefferson with that pick, couldn't they? Or was Jefferson?
I think Jefferson was like 5 picks before that, but they could have got like maybe Ayuk.
Ayuk was the pick right before them. I think they panicked and they took Love.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, there was no other receiver after that, really, at least not first round grade. But if you don't take Love, right now you might have an injury-prone quarterback at the end of his career with maybe 1 year to go. And if he's unhappy because you've never helped him with wide receivers, he might retire this offseason, right? He might feel like he has no faith in this team moving forward, and he just retires and he's done. With the Jets, he's like, I could see it happening. I could see it happening. Maybe that Packers team would be like, no, I don't see it. And they'd be bottom of the barrel. But instead they have a quarterback and they're ready to go. So,
Tony says, with players like Debo, Ayuk, McCaffrey, and Williams, I have to feel like Purdy should have done better. I don't think Purdy played badly in the game, honestly. But like, there were plays like we showed one earlier where, he missed a wide open Ayuk. And the reason for that wasn't that Purdy wasn't just looking there. Purdy didn't have time because the offensive line completely botched their protection.
I think it was a mixture of the protection and the play calling. I think the Niners didn't get all that. Oh gosh, what's the term for like, getting kind of fancy, like their play calling was so vanilla. It was like the Chiefs defense could just kind of do their thing and for the most part stop them. Where it's like
Yeah.
you have that play where Juwan Jennings throws a touchdown McCaffrey. It's like that's how you just throw defenses completely off, you know? So
Mhm.
I can't blame Purdy because statistically he had a good game. And watching it with my two eyes, it was like Purdy looks calm, collected, and he's throwing the ball where it needs to go. The only plays that he didn't was when the house was being thrown at him and the protection was not there for him. That's how I felt.
Yeah. And then so Tony, I guess maybe adjusted his message or added to it, or is that on Shanahan? It's on Shanahan. I don't really put much of it on Purdy. The shots that he could have taken would have required a little bit, more protection. And, he missed a throw here or there. Like, there was a go route to Ayuk in the end zone. There was a long shot to Debo, but there were plenty of opportunities to win the game. And I really feel like, the blocking up front was an issue. Mike and I talked about it. Like a big key in this game was going to be who could dominate the trenches. And for a good amount of the game, it felt like the Niners were. It's just like in the end, when it really mattered, the weakness showed up. And, the cliche is always you're only as good as your weakest link. And, the offensive line, I think, clearly stood out as the position of need that they need to address in the draft.
Yeah, 100%. I also say this to Tony's point. Yeah, I think Shanahan's a big part of it, but also two things. One, with the Debo, Ayuk, McCaffrey, and Williams aspect, it's like that was a big part of like the MVP talk towards Purdy. It's like, oh, he has all these weapons where other teams don't really have that. And I was kind of back and forth on it for sure. But as far as in this game, I think where Purdy might have made his mistakes, it may have been pre-snap. Because I don't know if you remember in the second half, they called that timeout. He called the timeout. It was like 4 seconds left on the play clock. And he calls timeout. And I'm like, oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't want to take a timeout right here. Like, that's rough. But Tony Romo's going on and on about like, oh, he saw something with the protection that he didn't like, so he had to call timeout. And it's like, okay, I get that. That's another aspect of the quarterback that us as fans, we rarely even consider because it's like, that's shit that only he's really looking at, but pre-snap. And he realized like, fuck, I only have 4 seconds here. Damn it. Timeout.
I think he had like 5 or 6 seconds, but yeah.
Maybe, but still like he had to call the tight end back over and this and that. And it's like, he realized like, I don't have the time to do this and just, I got to take the timeout. Like maybe that's where it might've been more on Purdy is those pre-snap moments when the Chiefs bring the blitz on him. It's like, man, if he could have got the protection the right direction, if he could have made it known, like, hey, right guard, block 95, I don't know.
Oh, dude, I thought the game was over on the first throw of overtime when Purdy, threw the ball to Debo and it bounced off of Debo's hands. And I thought the defender picked it. And I was like, that's the moment. Like, that's it.
Yeah. I felt my gut drop and I was like, oh my God, he didn't catch that. And like the way that he fell on it, I was like, I don't think he caught it. But even my uncle was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm like, he didn't catch it. And then you see the replay. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh no, we suck again. Yeah. Lucas says you didn't even have to watch the game to see that it wasn't on Purdy. If you just look at his stats, you think an automatic win. Shanahan abandoned the run and the defense got tired. I will say this. I tweeted something out like maybe a couple days before the game. And I said, if Brock Purdy has a good game, I don't see a scenario where the Niners lose. And I was wrong. I thought Purdy played good. And, I definitely saw this.
And the defense.
I saw the scenario where they lost.
And that's why everybody bet on the Chiefs is because of Mahomes and because they get it done at the end of the game. And it sucks. Yeah. Somebody's got to step up and stop them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you leave it close enough, it'll get decided one way or another. And you put it in the other quarterback's hands, it's, an all-time great quarterback. It's going to happen. Let's talk about like the way that the season kind of ended, and we'll kind of go fast on this, because we've been streaming for about 2 hours now. But all right, 49ers 2023 season recap. They started off fantastically. Looked like they were far and beyond the best team in football. 5-game win streak, then had a 3-game losing streak, then had a win streak again. They traded for Chase Young, and it looked like, Steve Wilks came down from the booth, and, they made the adjustments needed, and they beat a Jacksonville team that at the time was a great team, but in retrospect wasn't that great of a team. And the 49ers started playing, they lost confidence, I think, after the Baltimore game, where they lost pretty badly on Christmas. Like the final score was closer than it deserved to be, but they turned the ball over like 5 times. Sam Darnold Sam Darnold started getting the ball to Ayuk in that game, and like good things were happening, and they like brought the game close, but it was too late. Purdy got knocked out of the game, didn't come back in. They beat Washington a week later, and the Niners didn't fully get back on track. I feel like the whole rest of the season, there was just something slightly off about the offense, like the entire rest of the way. And could it be that they just like that week off killed them? Like the week off after the final regular season game. Well, actually 2 weeks off, because most like Purdy and Trent Williams, like, they didn't play in that Rams game. Maybe Trent did play. Purdy didn't play in that Rams game. And then they got a week off. And then the Packers game, they got like, kind of stunned a little early. Same thing with the Lions game. But, at the end of the day, the expectation was for this 49er team to win the Super Bowl. And they had very exciting comebacks in the playoffs. And those games are some of the greatest, playoff games in 49er history. But they, do you remember when I told you, Mike, that the ricochet catch that Ayuk had in the Detroit Lions game, like it'll only be really remembered if the 49ers win the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
That catch will still be remembered, but not like how it should be, and the same can be said like with a couple of years ago. The moment would have been if the Niners would have won the Super Bowl and beat the Bengals, if they had beaten the Rams, is the moment where they played against the Packers a couple of years ago and they blocked the punt and went on to beat the 1 seed Packers. Like it would have been a moment like that. Well, it will now be remembered as a moment like that, where it's just like a great playoff memory, but it's not ultimately like a classic organization like story. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like people remember the catch. People always talk about the catch. That was the NFC Championship game, one of the greatest plays of all time. And one of the reasons why it gets remembered so fondly is because it sparked, one of the greatest dynasties in the NFL. The 49ers in the 80s and the 90s. So, the 49ers, they missed their opportunity in the Super Bowl. And, honestly, it was a very fun season. And, they really played through the season mostly healthy most of the time. And, Shanahan deserves credit for keeping Purdy healthy, like the entire way through. Purdy didn't miss a game except for the Rams game, but that was that was on purpose. It wasn't due to an injury. And Purdy played a hell of a season coming off the elbow injury. And I do remember having my doubts about Purdy, and I didn't think he was going to return in time for the beginning of the regular season. And I was worried that Purdy was going to get figured out, by the film, and that, maybe it was just too good to be true. But at least Purdy so far, he performed well. late in playoff games showed that, he's going to always give the team a fighting chance to win. I don't know if maybe he would on other teams, but I think other teams would be jumping at the bit to have him as quarterback of their team, you know. So he might not have the strongest arm, but he had a hell of a season. And honestly, you put his numbers and you attach the name Tom Brady to it. If it had been Tom Brady, if it had been Tom Brady putting up the same numbers as Purdy did, he would have been the unanimous MVP. And it was a great regular season, great deep playoff run, but ultimately at the end of the day, they came short of their goal, and you could see it on the players' faces after the game. Like, this is the one that they wanted. This is the one they were most prepared for. Like, they were focused, and it just sucks that they couldn't come away with it because they played their asses off, and they might have missed their final opportunity to win a Super Bowl with this current core. Like, nothing's guaranteed. Even Dan Campbell told that to his young team. Dan Campbell's like, there's no guarantee. That might have been our only shot. He told to his team after they lost the NFC Championship game, and it's like, this was your first time here. Like, you might get back, but like, nothing in this league is guaranteed. And so, the Niners will hopefully be back next year and hopefully win the Super Bowl next year. But in terms of the 2023 season, it had its high, had high highs. One of the most dominant regular season teams that I think we've ever seen, and maybe maybe the greatest team to not win a Super Bowl. Maybe one of them.
Maybe. I still think 2019's team, man, that team was dominant between the run game and their defense, But as far as Super Bowl performances, I would say, you take away that punt fumble, and that this team absolutely deserved to win that game. So, yeah, like you said, high highs, low lows this season. But I think ultimately they got where they intended to. They got to the big
where
game,
everyone
and
expected
that's what everybody
them to
was
go.
expecting. It was just not executing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just unfortunately just those few plays that made the difference in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
The craziest thing to me, we haven't even said it. But I might have glazed over it at one point. But at one point, it was 4th and 1 in overtime. It's like one play. And you guys win the Super Bowl. And then they would have won. And Mahomes takes the fucking RPO for 30 yards. It's like, it was that close. Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. And ultimately, this is just history being written. This is just, this is one of those chapters in 49er history that's going to be like one of the most painful ones, right? And it dates back to the Jim Harbaugh days. I think it's all connected until they win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah. The Smitty says, Kyle, shake my head. Yeah. Kyle. Yeah. Tony says, I don't sell the 49ers short. They're champions and did go to the Super Bowl. I don't agree. They're not champions. They're NFC champions.
Well, maybe NFC champion. I would say maybe he's saying like 5-time champions, But anyways.
Yeah, as an organization, they're champions. Okay, let me keep reading the comment. If the Cowboys hadn't folded like a cheap suit, they may have had a chance to be there. Take pride in having got there. Yeah, that's the thing is like, I know Cowboy fans have been dying to go back to the NFC title game. They have not been in 30 years, 28 years. Not since they won their last Super Bowl, I think. So, at the end of the day, it really is a blessing. Like, if you really look at it, like every team's goal is to win the Super Bowl. And like, the Lions, they didn't even get to the Super Bowl, but they should be happy with just how far they got, given like how crappy the Lions have been like for so long. But I think what hurts the most is the expectation for the 49ers this year. It was like Super Bowl or bust, and
Well, yeah.
I am happy that like their season didn't end a couple weeks ago. Like I'm happy about that. But at the end of the day, it's just like heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. It just like, I think Mike, we talked about this. You're like, I would die for that. And I told you, no, you like, trust me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
I
telling
think
you
I
right
said-
now.
Yeah.
I'm
I
telling
think
you
I
right
said.
now.
Go. Sorry.
I'm telling you right now. I would almost rather be irrelevant than to get my hopes up every year that we're gonna one day win the Super Bowl, and we just like go through the worst possible. Like, there's defining moment. Like there's like cursed moments in every single one. It's like, oh my God, Kyle Williams. And then, oh my God, the fade to Crabtree that, I felt like Crabtree got held. And then, it was a little overthrown. Yeah. And then, oh my God, Sherman tips the ball and it's intercepted. And then, oh my God.
Garoppolo overthrowing Emmanuel Sanders.
Garoppolo overthrowing Emmanuel Sanders, and then Jaquiski Tart dropping an interception, and
Brock Purdy getting injured.
Yeah, Brock Purdy getting injured, and then now the punt, and then like the walk-off touchdown. Like, it's just like, I don't know if like the success justifies the heartbreak.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The pressure only mounts as you get closer and closer. 100%. 2 points. One, I think what I was saying was I would kill for the chance, for just that crack, just that one swing of the bat at winning the Super Bowl. Like, I haven't gotten anything close to that yet, and that sucks in my opinion. But I agree with you. I do agree that what you have gone through is way harder than what Raider fans have gone through. Like, as Raider fans, it's like we're stuck in this quote unquote purgatory, and it's like, we think so much about like what's best for the team, how can we get out of this bullshit? At least we know we're in bullshit. You guys are like, you have this window, and that's the tough thing as far as, you can take pride in it, but also what hurts the most is like you mentioned earlier, this might be their last chance, or next year might be their last chance because this window is going to close. You're going to have Purdy getting a massive extension, and at the same time, you're going to lose Trent Williams. You might lose a guy like Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. You might lose a guy like Dre Greenlaw or one of your safeties, Hufanga. I don't know. You're going to start losing players, and all of a sudden it's going to be like, fuck, what do we have left? It's just going to be the Purdy and McCaffrey. He's a running back that their lifespans just don't last that long. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden it's going to be like Purdy and one wide receiver and Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, and that's it. Yeah. And that's the hard part. And then my last point here, I listen to Bussin' with the Boys. At least I try to when I'm working and stuff. And Taylor Lewan. Yeah, there you go. And Taylor Lewan, he is from Michigan. That is his alma mater, right? He was the left tackle for the Tennessee Titans for many years. And Will Compton, former Raiders linebacker, special teams ace, right? Good linebacker with the Redskins back in the day. They had this argument. Actually, I think it was one of their back of the bus type of guys arguing with Taylor. And Taylor was saying, man, being a Michigan fan this year was the worst.
Hey, hold up. What do you mean back of the bus kind of guys?
Okay, well, their podcast is held in a bus. And in the back of the bus, they have their crew of guys that do the computer work.
I'm just saying, Mike, you're out of here, buddy. You can't say that. You can't say that, okay?
Yeah.
No, I just play. I had to get you back for that one time where you're like, you don't have to make this about race.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, Taylor Lewan, his point was, man, being a Michigan fan this year, which first off, he was also mentioning in his career, he has never been a fan. He's only been like, a part of the team. So now that he's retired, he's like, man, I'm actually experiencing what it's like to be a fan for real. And it's like, it's a craziest thing because you really do feel like you're a part of the team and blah, 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 all this shit. But he was like, man, but being a fan of Michigan this year was so hard. They won the national championship, right? But he was like, it was so hard because of all the pressure to win it, right? Which, I'm sitting there working, I'm kind of laughing my ass off. I'm like, dude, but you won. Like, shut up. And that's what the guy in the back of the bus was saying, was like, dude, I'm a fan of like South Carolina. Fuck you. Like, it's way harder being a South Carolina fan, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it's like, well, what is harder? Knowing that your team sucks or your team being so good that the pressure is mounted. It's like, we're in this window. We have to win now. And if they don't do it, like, unfortunately, your team, that is way worse. And I can agree with Taylor's point. Taylor's point is kind of null because his team won. That's not hard. That's the ultimate payoff. If you're a Chiefs fan right now, it's not hard. It is not hard to be a Chiefs fan. It is hard to be a Niner fan, though. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, like I could just imagine it's like, what it was probably like to be a Houston Rockets fan or, a Cleveland Cavalier fan, but they won a ring. You know what I mean? They got a ring out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say the one, well, no, Oakland A's fan, like that's tough.
Yeah, that is tough. But I have to say, like, if you're watching this just because, like, Mike and I, and like maybe you don't understand sports, I will say the feeling I have to imagine is like, if you want to relate this to like a life setting, imagine you're in a relationship, or you're a guy and your ultimate goal is to get married, right? And you get into these relationships, and or this could be if you're a woman too, and you propose to the girl and they always say no at the end. Or if you're the girl and you're waiting for the guy to propose to you, or however you want to picture this scenario, the same thing applies. And you're waiting for the guy to propose to you, but they just they break it off at the end, right? Like let's just say I'm over here trying to get married, start a family, and every single girlfriend I have, oh, it's going great. This is the best girlfriend ever, right? This girlfriend might have even been better than the last. I'm going to ask this, this woman to marry me. She says no every time. Like, could you see where that would probably be more painful than like not being in a relationship at all?
Or every relationship you have is shitty and you like break things off within 2 weeks. Yeah. That's way easier than like falling madly in love and being like, oh, this is it. This is the one. And then right at the last second breaking it off. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So I hope the analogy didn't get like botched by me trying to put it two different ways, but same thing. It's like you fall madly in love and you think it's going to happen and it doesn't.
Yep.
That's heartbreak at the biggest. You're at the biggest stage.
Yep.
Or no, you know what? Every single time you're about to get married, they leave you standing,
leave you at the altar.
They leave you standing at the altar on wedding day every time.
Yep. That's happened to you 3 times.
Yep. And then the other one is just, well, it's happened to me football wise. I don't want you throwing me under the bus because Pio watches this, Pio's dad watches this. We're talking about football here. Not talking about anybody. Okay. But yes, 3 Super Bowls and then, 4 NFC championship losses. So I guess in my analogy, it would be the NFC championship losses is you ask, they say no. And then standing at the altar, losing 3 times. Imagine.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the worst. Like, all right, you can see where like, all right, they say no, like that's already bad, but standing at the altar has got to be the worst. Like it's that much worse because you're about to commit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 2 weeks between the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game, that is the planning. But I digress. We're going to move on to our next topic. What's next for the 49ers? Mike, I want you to, like, do you have an answer for this, or like just sort of where do you think the 49ers should go after this? Like I've been hearing nothing but like Niner fans and, Niner content creators talk about this, like today. I want to know like the outside perspective of what you think this team should do. And then I'll give my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think I've heard maybe a few people. Well, I can imagine some Niner fans having complaints about Shanahan. I think you said maybe it was if they lose the championship game, they should fire Steve Wilkes. I feel like after that Super Bowl performance, there's no need to change a defensive coordinator. I think maybe with time it'll get better, more consistent.
There may not be a need to, but maybe they will, because Shanahan seemed pissed in overtime when he called that timeout. He was yelling in that headset.
Yeah, but I also feel like that was just Shanahan. Like, he's done that to quarterbacks before, and this was the biggest moment, and he's like, you're not going to fuck this up, Like,
yeah, but
sometimes you got to do it,
What has he done to those quarterbacks that he's yelled at?
For all I know, he's – yeah, but, well, again, quarterback development business, and, I think you can't get too complacent as a head coach, and sometimes maybe that can kill you. But I think if he just sits back and goes, "Oh, Purdy is for sure the guy," like that could allow you to pass up the next Patrick Mahomes in the draft. Like they even said, this is completely off topic, but I've heard reports that they didn't even scout Patrick Mahomes because they were so sure that they were going to get Kirk Cousins. It's like, that's the most ridiculous fucking thing I've ever heard. And also, you know what? Paired with this past Super Bowl, players saying, we didn't even know the overtime rules. That's 2 strikes. Massive strikes against Shanahan. I'm not saying 3 strikes and you're out, but like, dude, those are 2 very bad things to go to your name. Not scouting a quarterback in the draft because you're sure you're going to get another quarterback in next year's free agency. That's wild. That is absolutely wild.
There have been plenty of other strikes in between.
Yeah. And I guess what Shanahan needs to do is, or what the Niners need to do, I guess, is they need their head coach to not get in his own way. Because clearly that's what's happening. He's not preparing his players promptly for the Super Bowl, and he's getting in his own way of drafting the right quarterback. He's getting in his way of calling the right plays in every single Super Bowl. This is 3 Super Bowls in a row. Should have ran the ball. This year, Offensive Player of the Year, should have ran the ball. Get the ball in his hands. In the Super Bowl with the Falcons, I think it was Devontae Freeman. Great running back. Should have ran the ball. 2019, was it Mostert?
Yeah.
Should have ran the ball. So I think, what's next for the Niners is their coach making sure that he stops getting in his own way. Other than that, you got to beef up your offensive line. You re-sign the guys that you can and that clearly make the biggest impacts on this team. I feel like a guy that can leave is Chase Young. I don't think you need to keep him. I think, I don't know. Did Drake Jackson have a season-ending injury or something?
Yeah, he got put on IR and kind of shut down for the year.
Okay, so like he should be back. I feel like he's a good rotational guy. Maybe in free agency they get another guy. Is Armstead a free agent?
I don't think so.
Okay. Also, in about a week or 2, I think probably in 2 weeks, I think we'll have our free agency kind of episode.
Yeah.
I shouldn't guarantee that, but soon we will talk about both teams' free agents and all of that. So we'll get more into that later. But I would say what's next for the Niners, obviously, is figuring out free agency, who they need to keep, who they need to let go, what positions are of major need, right? What positions need depth? Again, can't stress it enough. Offensive line, right?
Mm.
What positions do you need to get younger at, right? Yeah, I mean, what's next for the Niners? What is next for the Niners? It's figuring out what you need to succeed in the window that you are in, because this window is not getting any bigger; it's getting smaller, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
get those big need fucking players on this team, and
Mhm.
try again next year.
Yeah, so right now I'm showing a tweet from Ryan G. Hensley. Shout out to Ryan. He has his own channel, so if you guys want to check that one out on YouTube, he does a show with Grant Cohn every Monday. It's a great show. So he tweeted this earlier, and I thought, like, it was a very interesting tweet because I didn't really think about that. In 7 years under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, the 49ers have drafted one good offensive lineman, and that's Aaron Banks. And it's kind of true. They had Joe Staley in 2019 because he was already there before. They traded for Trent Williams. They didn't draft him. Jake Brendel, I think he might have been an undrafted guy that they had been bringing along for a couple years. So they did develop Jake Brendel. Daniel Brunskill is no longer with the team. He hasn't been on the team in a while, I think, but he might have been last year. I don't quite remember. But I forget where Brunskill came from, but he wasn't really that great either. They drafted McGlinchey. McGlinchey is a hot pile of garbage, a tall hot pile of garbage in pass protection.
That coin flip that determined whether or not the Niners or Raiders would have that 9th and 10th pick actually ended up saving the Raiders, because all the talk in town was that the Raiders wanted McGlinchey, and then once McGlinchey was picked, it was kind of proven because the Raiders traded back 5 picks and ended up with Colton Miller, their franchise left tackle.
Yeah, so nothing personal against Mike McGlinchey. I just there were a lot of poor plays that were shown of his, and I think he's a pretty decent run blocker. It's just everybody always notices the bad plays. So, and then Colton McKivitz, I think he might even be an upgrade over McGlinchey. He was a 5th round pick, but he's still not maybe a starting, a Super Bowl caliber tackle. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And then so I think I sent you this tweet, and Tony is not going to like this. I know Tony, I'm pretty sure you're still watching, but it says, if there's one realistic player that you can add to this team this offseason to help the 49ers get over the Super Bowl hump, who would that be? And then at 49ers Sports Talk says, free agent offensive tackle Tyron Smith to play right tackle. I think that would be a good move. I think it would be an upgrade over McKivitz. No offense to Colton McKivitz again. And the fact that the 49ers don't have a great track record of drafting offensive linemen would suggest that going the free agency route might not be a bad idea. Yeah, I would definitely look there. I think they need to prioritize right guard more than anything. John Feliciano was serviceable as a right guard. And speaking of Feliciano, there was something going on today. I sent you a tweet, but there's actually a couple things that have me worried about the future of the 49ers. So we talk about all this heartbreak that they've gone through. They've now gone through 5 straight years of heartbreak. Well, four out of 5 years of heartbreak and 1 year of just ridiculous amount of bad luck and terrible injuries, right? So, man, so there was the play that we showed earlier on the stream of Spencer Burford, missing or sliding to the inside, and there was that huge gap, and Chris Jones went completely untouched on Brock Purdy on the 3rd and 4 play, and that was overtime, right? That wasn't the end of regulation.
That was the
Yeah.
final play, offensive play in
Oh.
overtime for the Niners.
Yeah. So everything on the line
In overtime.
right there. And they couldn't block. And so John Feliciano, I'll pull
Just
up
the right guard
tweet.
doesn't even look at him.
Yeah,
It was just
I'll pull up-
insane. Like the right guard just was automatic on I'm gonna look my head to the left and not even consider the star defensive tackle for the Chiefs. Anyways, continue.
John Feliciano tweets this in sort of defending Colton McKivitz, and he says a quick chop block isn't needed. This is John Feliciano, the starter, saying this about the backup. A quick chop block isn't needed if the guy that was supposed to block him blocks him. And Spencer Burford, sheesh, I opened up my app to this. Get well soon, bro. that sucks. I mean, Spencer Burford did take accountability for I think what happened. I mean, it was kind of worded in a way where I thought like maybe he was being like a little passive aggressive, in my opinion, but everybody seems to think like he took accountability for it. I just like, maybe didn't understand exactly what he was talking about in terms of protection. He said something about like, I should have slid, I should have, he should have went outside and let the free rusher, in the middle, sounded to me like what it sounded to me like was he was kind of being like, yeah, I should have just left the guy unblocked in the middle. But, everybody seems to take it as he was taking accountability. I'll give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe people know a little bit more of what they're talking about than I do. But, yeah, man, this was not a good look. And now the 49ers are going to have an issue, just like kind of like what they had with Deebo Samuel, in having to extend Brandon Ayuk to a brand new contract. But you sent me another thing?
Yes. First off, before we get to that, let's talk about Feliciano. Yeah, not good, huh?
Yeah.
So first off, as far as Feliciano goes, ex-Raider, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say he was drafted under Reggie McKenzie, and I think Mike Tice was the offensive line coach. I could be wrong there. And then we go through the change and we get John Gruden, and John Gruden brings in Tom Cable. And maybe after Gruden's first year with the team, Feliciano left in free agency. And I remember he was a good guard for the Raiders, young at the time, and I wanted him back. And he left in free agency, and I think he went to the Bills. And a year or two after he left the Raiders, because I still followed him on Twitter, there was one day, maybe it was when like Gruden was let go or whatever happened. For some reason, John Feliciano was on Twitter talking shit about the Raiders and Tom Cable. And I was like, bro, what are we doing here? Like, for whatever reason, he was airing out the Raiders and specifically Tom Cable. Maybe it was because Cable got fired. I don't know what it was, but I was like, damn, dude. And he was talking hella shit to like hella Raider fans and like, almost as if maybe it was when Rodney Hudson was let go. I think that might have been it. It was something. And I was just like, dude, this guy does not mind talking shit on Twitter. He's got Twitter fingers,
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thought on that. I've seen him do shit like this before where he just openly talks shit about other people in the NFL. And I'm like, man, all right, I guess you're a pro. Go you, man. Mm. But yeah, if you want to get into that next one, I was definitely going to bring it up.
Okay. That's wild to me because I want to share this. So I guess earlier today, I think this is Brandon Ayuk's girlfriend. Somebody posted this on Twitter, but she posted this on TikTok, and I'll just play the clip and then we'll talk about it.
This might be our last day. I mean, not our last day. Well, okay, this might have been the last day we touched foot on Levi Stadium, me and Braylon, because we might not be out here next year.
So she thinks that maybe Brandon Ayuk might not be on the 49ers next season, maybe requesting a trade or something. And, you could kind of take that with a grain of salt if that's just his girlfriend saying that. But then Brandon Ayuk posts a very cryptic story on his Instagram, and I sent it to you, Mike. But he said, "Don't forget what got you there." And I think that has to do with the fact that he only got three catches in the Super Bowl, and he had he had over 1,000 yards receiving. Yeah, I think people are clearly within that locker room pissed off, and I'm worried because Brandon Ayuk, I think, is one of my favorite players on the 49ers. I want to redo at some point this offseason, I want to redo our rankings of our favorite players on the team. And hopefully Brandon Ayuk will still be a 49er by the time we get to it. Because honestly, he's one of my favorite players. But let me get to the most recent thing that you sent me. And this is on Wayne Breezy's Twitter page, at the Wayne Breezy. He's a 49er content creator. Brandon Ayuk's brother, best friend on Instagram, posted on Instagram on his story. "This is the exact reason why we're leaving San Francisco. Thank you, 49ers, for drafting my brother. We are forever grateful. Brandon Ayuk to Vegas." And then, "Why does your all-pro 1,300-yard receiver have 3 catches in the Super Bowl?" Man, I hope that this is just him. I hope this is a campaign for the contract negotiation.
Yeah, contract negotiation. I mean, he's due, right? This is going to be year 4.
Yeah. So he's been on the team since 2020.
And remember, Debo, I want to say after year 3, he started going after his contract and holding out and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't year 4. It was immediately year 3. Once he was eligible to get a new contract, he was like, "I want that fucking contract." So yeah. I can see all of this absolutely being a ploy, and him telling his family members, "Hey, we got to act like we're leaving," because one thing that Ayuk probably knows, and this would be a big reason for trying to go for that third, after the 3rd year to get the contract. If he doesn't get that shit immediately, and he tries to utilize time against the Niners by saying, "Oh, here we are, end of year 4, you got to do something." Well, they pick up the 5th-year option. Right now, next thing for the Niners, actually, what's next for the Niners is deciding whether or not they're going to pick up the 5th-year option for Ayuk. What does Ayuk not want them to do? Pick up the 5th-year option. Why? Because the 5th-year option gets them maybe around 10th best average on the year for a wide receiver as far as how much money he makes that year. What he wants is to be top 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big difference. So he wants that contract now so that he can get that top 3 money immediately. I'm sure that's what it is, but let me do you one better and send you let me send you this tweet right here, which is a quote tweet. This will be the only Raiders content of the day, really, on this podcast. But somebody quote tweeted this tweet. And, notice that his friend, it looks like it says Dre Sean Hudson at the very bottom there, said BA to Vegas. All this talk about Jaden Daniels. You know who used to coach at Arizona State? Antonio Pierce.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So is there something going on? I don't know.
Mike, I want you to know I would be devastated.
Yeah. The only thing that makes sense, that would make this make sense to me, and I know that you probably realistically would be like, "Oh, okay, cool, but also this is not good for our window." The only thing that makes this realistic to me is if the Raiders trade straight up Brandon Ayuk for Davante Adams.
I remember we talked about this a while ago.
We did, yeah. We talked about this at some point during the season, I want to say.
Yeah,
maybe
during the season on the phone. I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but I know we have talked about this, and I don't like it, man. I think Ayuk going forward is just clearly
he's only getting better.
He's only getting better. Davante Adams has maybe hit his ceiling. depending on what quarterback he gets this year. Like if he gets a great quarterback to throw to him, he can probably have another career year. But going forward, I don't know how many years Devontae Adams has left, and I know Brandon Ayuk has like the best of his career ahead of him.
Yep. He's just about to hit his prime. He hasn't even hit it yet.
Mm-hmm. He had his best year this year so far. He's been trending upward every year, I think. So yeah, man.
So yeah, that would be absolutely insane.
As a Niner fan, like we just lost the Super Bowl, and it's like, all right, let's just
It's
immediately, day one, we just lost the Super Bowl, and everything is already falling apart. We've got 49er players like going back and forth with fans, like this one right here, Diamador Lenore is like kind of going back and forth with another fan, and it's I really wonder, it's like how can Shanahan keep this locker room together long term if like you keep selling the idea that you're the guy, you're the genius that's going to eventually bring it home, and the guys played their ass off in the Super Bowl and they have no, like, I mean, Kittle, Juszczyk, Trent Williams, McCaffrey. I mean, the last two names that I named like aren't even people that were on the team in 2019, but a lot of these guys have been together since like 2017. I mean, Fred Warner came along in 2018. Greenlaw came along in 2019, I think. Debo, like this might have been their last shot. This might be the last time that they, make it to the Super Bowl intact, healthy. You know what I mean? Because 2020 could happen again. It happens to teams all the time. Maybe not to the same level that 2020 occurred, but like, it just, nothing is guaranteed in sports. And, it's kind of devastating that like this might have been their only opportunity to win with this core, and they might have missed the opportunity. And after the game, it kind of seemed like the Niners weren't as like in a mood that, oh, we're going to be back here like they were in 2019. In 2019, they were kind of like, George Kittle had the famous clip, I'm going to be back with a vengeance. And now like, the way it was described, that I had been listening, like the team looked defeated. Like the first Super Bowl that we lost, it was like the 49ers just got humiliated, right? They got embarrassed because they blew a 10-point lead with 10 minutes left in the bowl. This loss is just demoralizing. Like, I think the guys know well enough that like this, it was so hard to get back here. It took them 4 years to get back to the Super Bowl. I don't think George Kittle has another 4 years left in him. I don't know how long Kyle Juszczyk has still got. I mean, he can still play. I think these guys can play as long as their body is allowing them to, and as long as they want to still play. It's just tough, man. It's like they might have, like, this sounds crazy, but the 49ers need to seriously consider if they're just going to run it back again, and find out again that it wasn't enough, or if they should like do a mini kind of rebuild, But the thing is the way that their contracts are set up, the players that they can trade, like, I see Irvin Rodriguez in the chat says trade Debo and keep Ayuk. I would love, I would do that in a heartbeat. But the thing is, I think, Mike, do you know Debo Samuel's contract number next year?
It's probably like year 2 or 3 on his extension.
Do you want to know his cap hit for next year?
I'm going to guess 25 million.
28. 28 million.
See, that's what I was going to say. I know this season you guys had like $40 million in space like week 9, and it was like, what the fuck? And you could trade for a guy like Chase Young. I'm really curious what your cap space looks like next year, because I know some of those cap numbers are hitting, and it's like, man, you got players like Chase Young and maybe this offensive lineman and this other defensive lineman and maybe a corner all hitting free agency. And it's like, oh, and we also have to fill maybe this spot and this spot too. And it's like, damn, how much money do they have? I'm curious, We'll talk about it in the free agency episode, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing about these windows is they get tighter and tighter for a reason. Is because you start paying players. And I mean, again, once you get that Purdy contract, it is tight.
It's over. It's over. The window, window with this core, once Purdy's contract kicks in, like once they pay Purdy, and I don't even, I feel like determining whether they should pay Purdy or not plays 100% not on what happened this year, but on what happens next year.
Yeah, I think depending on what you do with Purdy, that's the time to do a mini rebuild. Because around that time is also when Trent Williams is going to retire. Maybe that's when you trade George Kittle. And I think I mentioned that when we talked about this before, was like, do you keep Ayuk or Debo if it comes down to one or the other? It's like, well, Ayuk's younger. You should probably keep him. Trade Debo if you can. What do you do with Charvarius Ward? What do you do with Hufanga? What do you do with Drake Greenlaw? All these different players, right? It's like, yeah, there comes a point where you got to save cap space. Maybe you could trade a couple guys, get a couple more picks, and but that's when your picks have to hit, right? That's why teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs.
You know why?
I don't know, but that's why. Well, that's why the Ravens and Chiefs are so good, is because they're so good at drafting. When they do these little mini rebuilds, I mean, look at the Chiefs they got rid of Tyreek Hill. Well, they get like Trent McDuffie and Karlaftis.
Isaiah
big
Pacheco.
Time players in this. Pacheco, yeah, these big time players in this game. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, but it's not worth it to get rid of Debo, because to keep Debo, it's $28 million. I think to get rid of him, $21 million in dead cap.
Yeah. Well, I meant in a year or two, which by then he might be a free agent for all we know. But I'm saying when that window closes, when it's time to decide on Purdy and re-signing him, and then you also have Ayuk and whoever else, that's when you got to determine the window, who we keeping, who we not keeping. Do we got to do a little mini rebuild here? Do we need to accumulate some draft picks by trading a guy like Debo and Charvarius Ward or whoever? That's the tough part. That's why this Super Bowl loss hurts, and next year is even more paramount,
Yeah. I think next year is the final year of this. Like, if George Kittle is going to win a ring, it has to happen next year. It's not going to happen.
I think McCaffrey. I hate to say it because I love the guy, and he seems like a Superman type, where it's just like he's never going to die, and then, or by die I mean his career fall off, like every other running back does. But at some point, unfortunately, it's going to happen. Just like Ben Roethlisberger was always that big guy in the pocket that you could just never bring down, and then out of nowhere it was like you could sack him because he was super slow, and he had a noodle arm at the end. Drew Brees, noodle arm at the end because he had a fucked up shoulder or something, or elbow. I don't know what it was, but Peyton Manning at the end, he had kind of a noodle arm. I'm saying noodle arm, but basically their arms get weak because their bodies can't take it anymore. You got these running backs who can't cut like they used to. They can't run through a guy like they used to, or whatever it is. And they don't have the burst.
NFL players, in a way, their bodies are kind of like cars. You know what I mean? You just get enough mileage on it, and it's like, unfortunately, the human body was not meant to play football. Like, that's just the fact. And like the fact that people play it, it's like shows, they have strong genetics, strong, work ethic. And, sometimes it takes a little bit of luck to get noticed. Like, look at a story like Brock Purdy, right? So there, you can only play for so long. And that's why it was so crazy that Tom Brady was playing until like 45. So that's what's insane. But yeah, man, I will be very interested to see. Trent Williams said that he wanted, he's got a couple more years left in him. And he said that like before the Super Bowl. If Trent Williams just all of a sudden retires, I think there's some serious turmoil in this locker room. I think like there's seriously fundamentally wrong. and we could be like gearing up for God knows what next, because Jed York doesn't seem like he's ever going to move Shanahan. At least not the way he's talking now, but anything can change in a year. Like, Niners miss the playoffs next year, which I don't think they will. But if the Niners miss the playoffs next year, how does Jed York feel about Shanahan then? You know, anything can change with just one bad season. Look, Harbaugh missed the playoffs one time. Didn't even have a losing record. Went 8-8. Jed York said, you know, see ya, buddy. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know what's next, but I do know this. The 49ers, it is very important that they have a free agency where they don't sign a big name guy. I think the team fell short, not in their superstars. It fell short in the play calling. But if you're going to have a guy that is erratic in his play calling, you better surround all the other players with solid, just they don't have to be superstars. They can be just solid players. Like, imagine Shanahan with a more well-rounded team, with like maybe you don't have the fantastic stars that Shanahan's just going to coach himself out of using. Maybe just have, like, instead of A+ players, you just have everyone around, like, a B. Then maybe Shanahan will win a Super Bowl that way, because he can't take the ball out of the hands of somebody who's gonna propel the offense. But I think free agency is going to be key for this team. They need to address the right side of the line, starting with the right guard. I don't know if bringing Feliciano back is the long-term answer. I don't think so. Especially with what Mike said about like how he just randomly will. I mean, he's like a wild card. You want to eliminate wild cards from your team. I don't think you extend Chase Young. He played great in the Super Bowl, but the effort issues were there during the season, and eventually it's going to probably creep back up. Yeah, hold on. This AirPod just died, so let me pop this one back in. And we're almost done, right? You can hear me still, right?
Yeah.
It connected to my other speaker. Hold on. Let me get this connected back to Bluetooth. You know what? I'll just go with the big speaker. If there's an echo, you just interesting. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Where was I? They need to extend Ayuk. I think it's imperative that they extend Ayuk in a couple years. I don't think you re-sign Debo. You can probably let Debo walk in free agency. You can't really trade him because you're going to be eating a bunch of dead cap. Just use them, use them until you can't use them anymore, and then let them sign somewhere else. Somebody else pays them, and you get a comp pick. Right? That's probably going to be what eventually happens with Debo, unfortunately. Yeah. If I were the 49ers, I would try and draft a quarterback late in the draft. I would try to get a guy with a big arm, like a strong arm. And I want to preface this. I'm not saying to replace Brock Purdy. I'm saying that Sam Darnold's going to be a free agent. I think Brandon Allen might be a free agent. I don't know if you're going to bring back those guys. Quarterbacks are just expensive. Even backup quarterbacks like Sam Darnold had a couple million, on the cap. And the 49ers didn't really need him this year. But, Purdy is sort of becoming a veteran with the more starts that he gets under his belt. He already has more playoff experience than a lot of starters now. And, he's played on the biggest stage. I think you can kind of get like a young guy behind him. So that way you can if Shanahan's going to be here long term, and let's just say you can't afford to keep Brock Purdy on the team, and it's between Brock Purdy and the talent on the team, but you can get by with another quarterback on the roster and bring him up, too. There, like, why wouldn't you take a chance on a guy maybe later in the draft the same way? Like, you got Purdy with the last pick in the draft. Why can't you get a guy, why can't you do it again? Right. And I'm not saying they will do it again, but in a perfect world, you'll never have to figure it out. But even Bill Walsh, Joe Montana was in the prime of his career and had won 2 Super Bowls. And Bill Walsh went out, got Steve Young, and Steve Young eventually won a Super Bowl for the 49ers. So, he had to back up Joe Montana, and he was always breathing down Joe Montana's, neck. I think it would be a good thing for the 49ers to have a backup plan. So, and really just like a backup in general for Purdy, not to challenge him for the starting position. I'm not going to be ridiculous. I think that's the plan right now. And you can hedge your bet in case Brock Purdy asks for an astronomical amount of money. I was kind of thinking today, what would be the perfect number to pay Brock Purdy? Because, quarterbacks are getting like 50, 60 million a year now, between 40 and 60 million. What would it cost to keep Brock Purdy? And I think the appropriate number is no more than 30 million.
For Purdy?
I think so.
Like per year?
Yeah, per year.
Oh, man. I mean, that's how it probably feels right now. But if he plays, if he's in the MVP conversation again next year, look out for that Dak Prescott type deal. $50 million a year.
Yeah, but I mean, couldn't you say that Dak Prescott deal is a mistake? Well,
not this year. For Dallas, they're saying, man, Dak should have won the MVP. What he was able to do with CD in the second half of the season was, if they had kept it up all season, it would have been, in the record books.
Yeah, but like how many times has Dak Prescott played well in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think the way that I feel about Dak, this is a weird way to put this, but and I'll explain it after. But the way I feel about Dak is the same way that like you kind of described Boza earlier, which is he shows up big in these massive games. Not saying Dak does, but I feel like these players get paid and players get drafted based off of potential, right?
Mm.
So players get drafted in the first round, second round because they show high potential. And then after that, it's like, okay, at this point, you're just trying to find players that have good, solid potential to make a difference, right? But, you see those first-round prospects that are like, you either get the bona fide, like, stats guys, like, oh, my God, they went crazy in college, or you get, like, a Tyree Wilson who's, like, just freakishly athletic, and, if we just get him to do this and this and, his handwork, he'll be an all-pro, right? You never know. It's all about potential. That's why they draft him where they draft him. Then in the NFL, players start proving themselves, and it's like, okay, well, we're paying you this much. Some of these quarterbacks get paid insane amounts, like whether it's Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott. But it's the team. It's a mixture of, one, it's like capitalism, and, all these players, all they ever want, if they're solid enough, they want to push the boundary. They want the next highest contract to help push the next quarterback to get the next highest contract. And then eventually, like let's say Derek Carr, he signed his deal. He was the highest paid quarterback, like just before or after Jimmy Garoppolo and Matt Stafford back in 2016, 17. And then, somebody else passes him up. And then in 3 or 4 years, Carr's up for another extension. Well, he's getting way more than $25 million that one time when he got the most ever. Now he's getting $40 million, right? It's all looking towards the future. It's a matter of if they can keep earning those contracts. But point being, Dak Prescott's contract looked like insane, but the way that he played at points this season proved that, well, he kind of is worth it. Just like Nick Bosa getting the highest paid contract for a defensive player ever, in the Super Bowl, it was like, no shit, that was worth it. If they win this game, and you're talking about how big of a play Bosa made in this third down on this play, and oh my god, he pressured the fuck out of Mahomes in this play and this play. That was worth it, right? It's just a matter of when does it work out. So, and I think the way that Purdy's played, if he keeps it up, you bet your ass it's gonna be 50+ million. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so maybe my number was like, you know, really unrealistically low, but you know, you're warming me up to the idea of more, but I would say you give him a blank check if he wins the Super Bowl. Make him earn it. Brock, do you want 60 million?
Oh.
Do you want to be the highest paid player of all time? If you win the Super Bowl, we'll do that for you.
Oh yeah, easily. No, not a second guess. You know, just like the Ravens when Flacco won the Super Bowl, it was like, put your number on this blank contract or on this blank check. You know,
Yeah.
What do you want? Because we don't care anymore. You already got it done. You know?
Yeah.
And as far as we can tell, you can do it again. So, yeah. And that's when it makes the most sense. That's why any Ravens fan, there was probably not that many complaining at the time. Whereas there probably were some Dallas fans when, you know, they re-signed Dak Prescott to that mega deal. They're like, ooh, we could have just drafted a quarterback and like built up everywhere around him. But Dak clearly can light the league up when he wants to. I shouldn't say when he wants to. He always wants to, but, you know, when he gets the opportunity, you know, so.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and take a couple comments and then, you know, we'll end the show here. I do want to thank the people who are still watching us. Joel says, I think his brothers also posted stuff being upset and that they're just stirring the pot in his opinion. I hope so. You know, please tell me you're stirring the pot because Ayuk is a fan favorite player and he's underappreciated in the NFL. And if Mike, imagine this, Brandon Ayuk in a year or two on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Just stop with the voodoo right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I would genuinely much rather trade Devontae Adams and a third-round pick for Brandon Ayuk than to see Brandon Ayuk end up on the Chiefs in 2 years and winning 3 more Super Bowls, helping the Chiefs win 3 more Super Bowls. Just no thanks.
I'd vomit. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you got players like T. Higgins and shit out this year. It's like, if T. Higgins goes to the fucking Chiefs, oh my God.
They didn't pay Tyreek. They're not going to pay T. Higgins.
If they have the cap space, though, we'll see. I don't know what the cap space looks like, but they still also have Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed up for free agency, so they'll probably be focused on their own guys this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hit Stick Stepper says Ayuk is going to demand a trade. I'm hoping that. I'm hoping not. But man, you can never know. Like, I swear, man. Didn't we talk about this, Mike, when Josh Jacobs was going through his, you know, through his like contract negotiations? Like the NFL should, you know, and the NFLPA should come in and like work something out to maintain privacy during these negotiations because I guess it's good for the league because it attracts more attention and it's like more drama and everything. But man, does it stress everyone out?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and I guess that adds, it's the player using their leverage, right? The fans are gonna I'm over here worrying about it, and the 49ers are more likely to write a bigger check if it's gonna appease the fans.
Yeah, I'm sure at the end of the day, Ayuk wants to stay with the Niners. I'm sure he enjoys his time with Purdy. He got 1,300 yards this year, like 8-9 touchdowns. He had a career year, and there's no proof to suggest that he wouldn't again next year. You know, so and it's a winning organization. They're right there on the cusp of a Super Bowl. It's like anybody in the NFL would kill to be in their spot, you know. So I'd have to imagine this is all just a ploy. But man, I mean, that one friend or brother of his was very specific about going to Vegas with a pirate flag, and it's like,
God, you would be so happy.
I'd be
You
very
would be
happy. I'm
so
just
happy.
curious. I'm just curious how the hell they'd get it done because from my point of view, it's like I just tweeted a little bit about it, but it's like in theory, I'm so positive, man. All the vibes and like little tidbits here and there is pointing towards Antonio Pierce and the general manager specifically wanting to trade up for Jaden Daniels. It's just a matter of if he's available and if the trade is available. I think if the trade's available and he's available, they'll sell the fucking farm to do it. I really believe it. Right now, that's in my heart of heart. They're gonna do it. So then if they do that, and Brandon Ayuk's like, I'm demanding a trade to the Raiders. What can the Raiders realistically give up? In my opinion, it's Devontae Adams plus maybe a future third round pick or something like that. Maybe. And we talked about it. I said I could see Devontae Adams to the Niners. I think it was the trade deadline. That's probably when we were talking about it because Devontae Adams, there was all this talk about that. And to me, it's like, what are the two things Devontae Adams wants? Take away the money. Take away the money. He's already got a top end contract, right? No matter what, he gets traded, he still has it. What does Devontae Adams want? He wants to win a Super Bowl, and he wants to be close to home. He's from the Bay Area. What's closer to home than being in the Bay Area's team? You take away the fact that he grew up a Raider fan, the Niners make the most sense for him. So
I'd keep
I
Ayuk.
can see it.
I would keep
absolutely
Ayuk.
you would. Absolutely you would. But also, as far as your current window, if Ayuk is dead serious about demanding a trade and I'm done, having Devontae Adams is not a bad get back. What sucks for you is that in 2 to 3 years, you're not going to have anybody. That's what sucks. Whereas Ayuk is the guy that's going to last you 7+ years. So, and my thing with the Raiders is, if they do get Jaden Daniels, you want to have a receiver that can last a long time with them. So, man, the thought of Jaden Daniels and Brandon Ayuk for me excites the hell out of me. But I don't see it as realistic, but we'll see. Crazier things have happened.
Get your own Brandon Ayuk.
Well, that's the thing, too. That's the thing, too. It's not that hard. It's really not.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Hill, 5th or 4th round pick. Just so many examples of wide receivers being picked late in drafts and becoming great. Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, the 49ers must draft well this year. They have not drafted well in the past 2 years outside of Purdy and Hufanga and Jair Brown. So they need to step it up. If they don't step it up, it's over. It's over.
Yep.
Tony says Dak's agent will make sure he gets his money. Purdy's agent will want a ton of money, in my honest opinion. You're right. Like every agent is going to want their player to get the most money possible because they get a bigger cut of it. You know what I mean? Or they get a big cut of it. So, the higher the money, the higher the percentage. And then Hit Stick Stepper says, I'm a Raider. I'd trade Ayuk for Devontae Adams. He's a dog. Run that. Hey, chill out. You guys are making me nervous. You guys, let's chill out here. I want to keep Brandon Ayuk. You guys can keep Devontae Adams. He looks fine in the silver and black. Brandon Ayuk looks amazing in the red and gold. There's that picture of Brandon Ayuk dressed up in Niner stuff when he was a kid, but I'm sure Brandon Ayuk is very upset on the way the Super Bowl went because it's like
3 catches.
He was wide open for that the go ahead touchdown, and it just it wasn't realistic that the ball was going to be able to get to him with Chris Jones in Purdy's face. Like if he would have even thrown it at Ayuk in like a catchable ball, it probably gets batted. Purdy had to kind of run.
Depends on.
All he had to do was throw it up, but he couldn't. You can't throw it up without seeing the defenders, and you've got Chris Jones in your face.
Yeah, the tough thing was, I think, at least my assumption here is that Purdy threw it. He knew the pressure was right there immediately. I think he just threw it to his first read. And honestly, Juwan Jennings had a shot. It's just you're gonna hate me, but it was almost reminiscent of that final Kaepernick throw in the Ravens Super Bowl, where it was like just out of arm's reach and a fading ball, again, too far away from the receiver. Difference is there wasn't a guy putting his hands on the receiver, but
Mhm.
there was too much pressure for Purdy to make the right throw. If
Yeah.
if the right guard just gets a hand on Chris Jones, Purdy might be able to look at his second read Ayuk and oh my god, he's boom, without even having to say, in less time it would take to say, oh my god, he's wide open. He's already making the throw.
Mhm.
Also, thank you for the comments. Shout out Stockton Ports.
I'm not familiar with that team.
So
Is that
I
a
believe-
minor league team for the Eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to them. I just want to say, please comment, like, and subscribe. That's the end of our show. If you want to follow Mike and I on Twitter, we always have our Twitter names under our first names, but I never mention it. You know what I mean? So like, if you guys want to get our opinions throughout the week, maybe don't want to wait all the way until the live show, even though the live show is like where it's popping. So you guys want to be tuning in every week. Mike, the season's over now. So, I mean, before the season, we weren't doing weekly shows. We were just kind of like waiting for all the topics to build up, and then we would do our show. We might, I don't know if we'll do a show this upcoming week, but whenever there's stuff to talk about, we'll try and do a podcast. And we want to thank everybody who has supported the channel and commented on any of our videos this season. It's been a tremendous first season to be covering the not necessarily covering, because we're not reporters, but just sort of hopping on a podcast and talking about our teams. It's been a great year. It happened. It all happened so quick. You know what I mean? It feels like just yesterday we started our first episode and we went live, and we didn't go live. We recorded it and we had to delete the first one because or the first couple ones, because we just weren't ready for the moment.
We weren't ready for it. Like, this is kind of a funny inside thing, but like our first pod, we were so unsure of like how exactly it would go. And again, thank God we weren't live, because we just kept laughing our asses off. One of us would either stutter or one of us would laugh. And we were like, oh my God, dude, we have to get this going. We have to get this right. And then finally we got it good. It was like, it felt like 20 attempts. It was like we would start and one of us would mumble, say something wrong. We'd start laughing, or we'd just start laughing, period. And then finally, at one point, we got in a roll, and it was like, we haven't fucked up since. And the second pod, it was like there were no issues. It was like, we know what we're doing, we're good. Yeah. But point being, agreed, man. I would have never expected to be going live and getting a bunch of different people commenting on our podcast. I just thought, we'll just throw our opinions out there into the echoes of the internet, and probably get a bunch of hate comments here and there. Like we did our Bill Walsh, YouTube video, and I guess I got something wrong, or maybe because I didn't know the head coach of the Bengals name or something, or because I didn't know that John Lynch was a quarterback at Stanford, and somebody commented something like, know your facts before you talk about it. I was like, sorry, dude. I'm a Raider fan. Who cares? Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't follow Stanford. I don't follow the Niners like that. Damn.
Yeah. I replied to the comment essentially saying that you were talking about the story that your dad, told you, and that if we got anything wrong, please let us know. We'd like to correct it in the future. Didn't receive a comment back.
Yeah. I think I even prefaced before I started going, I was like, I heard this from my dad, so I might not have everything right here. Like, it's word of mouth for me, and actually, impressively, everything tracked really well. So
yeah, it might not have been 100% like on the dot, but it was like, I was watching, I turned on NFL Plus because I guess there's a clip of John Lynch talking about it, talking about like, the whole Bill Walsh thing. And so I started watching it and I was like, wow, this is like exactly like what Mike was saying. Granted, I don't remember if I watched the full, clip or not, but yeah. But, I just want to, quickly thank, Fonzie, Chicano, Joel, Anthony, Paulina, Pia. I want to thank Mr. C. I want to thank Tony, Hitstick Stepper, the Smitty, number 8, Thrasher. There was a guy named James at one point. There was a guy named Hefe who, oh man, if there's one week I'm thankful that you didn't tune in. It's Hefe is a Chiefs fan. There was a guy from, like a Jets fan. I just, I try and remember, all you guys. CG Ruthless tuned in a couple times. So I really appreciate like all the comments from you guys. And if I missed you and you've if you've commented on like our streams before, I think there was like one person named the Sleepy Lady or something like that. But we appreciate you all for checking out the streams. We're not going to be done. We're going to go live again soon, but in terms of like weekly videos, we might wait for there to be stuff to talk about. Next time we're going to talk about the Raiders coaching and GM updates. So if you're a Raider fan, I apologize for the past couple weeks have not been so Raiders centric, but the 49ers were in the middle of a Super Bowl run. So we had to really talk about it. The Raiders hired their head coach. So that was really like the main news, a couple weeks ago. And we're almost in combine and draft season,
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about potential prospects and, positions of needs, free agency. Free agency is next month, huh?
It's like the middle of next month. I've always remembered it being like the 25th of March. I think it's like the 11th this year. I'm like,
yeah. So,
oh my God, we're literally a month away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the combine's at the end of this month. Like, yeah, it's going to fly by. We're honestly, I won't be shocked if we have like almost every week we still have a pod. Probably not, but like almost, because again, in a month, in 4 weeks, we're going to have the free agency. So we got to get on that before that happens. We still have to talk about the Raiders and the moves they've made so far with their, head coaching and GM departments. So
yeah.
We got some topics.
Yeah. So I was also about to real quick. I said all those names. I didn't get a chance to talk, or to give a shout out to my little cousin Gabriel yet. But he just commented. I was literally about to mention him. But I want to say, thank you to him for watching our streams. When he has been able to tune in and out. He's a teenager, right? So he is finally like kind of getting into football a little bit. And I think like I first started to really notice it, yesterday after the game, he called me and, I thought he was just going to like talk smack because, sometimes like, middle schoolers, they'll go, they don't have the social awareness to understand it's a big moment. So, I had to call him back because I was like in the middle of the living room and like I was like going through like a lot of heartbreak. I ended up calling him back and, he's so upset that the 49ers lost. And I think it was just, I was also devastated that the Niners lost and, it just kind of is what it is. And, I told him it's okay. The Niners, we'll win eventually. It just wasn't our time, but I was just really glad because, I think I've been waiting forever for him to like show any interest in football. And, he finally did. Like, I'm sure you experienced that with your brother Kyle, but
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. And you started mentioning, your cousin Gabriel, and I was like, yeah, I actually kind of did want to shout out Kyle because the last time I saw him 2 weeks ago, I was showing him the podcast. I actually specifically showed him the moment that I told you, hey, cut my video off for 7 seconds and then put me back on. This is my reaction to if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. And it's my fucking my feet up in the air,
Yeah.
and he's just dying laughing. And then I thought about it again. I was like, oh god, if the Chiefs win, I have to do it, and I did it.
Yeah.
And that's
So
that's the only positive thing about the Chiefs winning. But besides that, Kyle has become a pretty big Niner fan. I would
mhm.
say mostly I'd say this year specifically, it seems like he's starting to really get into football. So it's really cool because it was just a little before his age that I started getting into football. So, and I like you mentioned, I've been waiting for it, just waiting for Kyle to get into football.
Mhm.
So even though it's
Yeah.
not my team, I'm still happy that he's into football. So
No, it's a beautiful thing because it's like a thing that it should get passed down to generations. You're a good amount older than Kyle. I'm a good amount older than my cousin, and he as he comments, you should collab with Grant Cohn again. I think that would be a great idea.
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, as long as Grant wants to do it, I'm very thankful that he took time out of his day to collaborate with us. A couple months ago. I mean, it feels like forever ago. That was like what, episode 7. We're on episode 35, and we do these things like weekly. So
Yeah.
it's been a
Hopefully
long
our internet's
time.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got nothing but love and respect for Grant. So maybe I'll hit him up uh, in a couple weeks. See, like the thing is, I don't want to just have him on just to just to boost the channel. Like I don't want to waste his time. I want to have something that I want to ask him about, and it was perfect. He
Yeah.
went to the Raiders Niners joint practices, so it was
It was perfect timing.
it was the perfect timing.
Yeah.
To get them on. So it's like that. That's one thing. It's like, you could want to take shortcuts to try and grow your channel, and it's fine. But you know, I I had, I wanted to have great questions to ask, and I felt like I did. And then I completely threw off my internet off the grid when I introduced him. If you go back and watch that stream, I froze. So I mean, it's been just talking about this. It's been a great season. I really shouldn't hang my head on the fact that we didn't win the Super Bowl. It's tough, but life goes on. So I mean, I might cut this portion of the stream into a little video and just say a thank you to all our subscribers and everything. If I've interacted with you, if Mike's interacted with you in the comments on not even the live videos, we appreciate all of it. We try to reply to all of it, and yeah, I like what we're building here, and everybody's welcome to have their own opinion. So just as long as it's not ridiculous or hateful or whatever, it's Mike and I can take some heat. You know what I mean? I've replied to a couple comments where it's I don't agree with a single thing that this person said. I'll give my perspective, but it's all respect. You know what I mean? So, all respect. I appreciate everyone. Have a good night. I'll try not to botch this ending. Maybe that's why the Niners lost. It's because I botched the end, and they botched the end of the game. It was overtime. Right? So.
Okay. Last thing I'm going to say here, because you have a lot of superstitions, and I do catch myself having superstitions as well. I'll tell you one funny one that I heard, and I don't know if it's true. I think I heard through the grapevine or whatever you want to have, what have you, that my dad, back when the Raiders were good, say playoff games or big games, if the Raiders were losing at halftime, my dad's superstition was if the Raiders are losing at halftime, he needs to go wash the car. He's got to wash the car at halftime, and the Raiders will win. I was like, dude, that's the fucking most hilarious thing I've ever heard. And then
it's a very productive superstition.
Yeah, absolutely. Or like vacuum the house. I got to do the dishes. That's great. You, maybe you should do that. That would help tremendously, right? It helps around the house. It's productive. But the superstition I found myself feeling during the Super Bowl was as long as I'm positive, as long as I'm feeling positive, the Niners are okay. And then what happened? The entire game, I was just like I was standing in front of the couch. I could have sat there, just kind of relaxed, but I was standing the entire game. Like the Niners need to do this. They got to run the ball. They got to score 7. Yada yada yada. Blah blah blah. But the entire time, I was optimistic. Like they got to do it because they can do it, right? And then once overtime came, they kicked that field goal, and I just sat down. I was like, "Fuck." I
Oh,
you're giving the ball to Mahomes, like, and then it was gone, and then what did they do? They win the game,
yeah. Oh my God. So let me share this story. And I know Pia is probably gonna eventually watch this, and like maybe they might show it to the person I'm about to talk about. Pia has this cousin named Andrew. I love Andrew. You know what I mean? No single problem with Andrew, but like my superstitions about like I need to be in the same spot, same thing. Like, and I don't know if I'll have as strict superstitions going forward because like I did everything that I could and it didn't work out in the end. Or maybe what I'm about to say might be the reason why they didn't win. So literally the Niners intercepted Mahomes after halftime. And then like I just see everybody look towards the door, and then it was like, "Hey, I made it!" And it was Pia's cousin Andrew, and he was the only one wearing a white jersey, right? And
uh,
then like you know, I'm just I'm just thinking about superstition, and it's not my place to say go back, but he walks in, and I'm just like, I'm I'm a nervous wreck during the game, and I'm just like in my head, I'm like, what are you doing here? you know,
yeah,
yeah, like just because of the superstition, right? And then
yeah,
and then so he sits down. Oh well, but first he's like saying hi to everybody, and then the Niners just like start shooting themselves in the foot, and they go like three. They go 3-and-out, and I tell Pia like I told Pia, I'm like, everything was going just fine. You know,
actually, that's funny.
and that's where
I
that's
just
where it went
imagine,
downhill. But it's
yeah,
it's okay.
I just imagine you sitting there in the red jersey, looking around at everybody, and you see this guy walking with the white jersey. You just go like, just your face just drops, like, oh God, no. But the other superstition I was feeling during the game, just before kickoff, 5 minutes before, like maybe right after the national anthem, it was a group of 4 of us, and I don't want to promote alcoholic drinking, so we took a drink of some liquid, you know,
Mhm.
as a celebratory act to the Niners, and then we each took one, and then at halftime, only 3 of us did, and I was like, ooh, I really think that fourth person should also join us because the first half went really good,
Mhm.
and then the game goes to overtime, and I'm like, maybe all 4 of us should take a little another drink, like in my head, but I'm not gonna say anything, but internally, like superstition, I was like, I think all 4 of us should be doing this, not just 3 of us. It's really gonna break the bond, and like kill everything.
Yeah.
So
No, like there were like little things during the game where like I think Pia's dad, I don't know what he was doing in the garage, but he's like, "Oh, I'm going to do something cool." And I'm like, if you don't get back in your seat, I'm going to throw a tantrum in my own mind if the
yeah,
49ers do not win this game, and they didn't, right? But like I was just, I told Pia, I told Pia, I was like I was like, your papa's making me nervous. and and so Pia, was like, she tried to get her dad, back, and then like it took a couple minutes, and I'm like, everybody needs to stay in their spots, and then I think Pia's mom said something about like maybe it was like Taylor Swift or something, and I I said it out loud, and I didn't want to be rude. I never want to be rude, but I was like, I forget even what was said, but I was just like, well, the 49ers have to win first in order for that to happen, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like trying to keep it's like trying to keep the karma. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, when you 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 get too arrogant and then
Yep.
like and then that's when you fall off the cliff.
There's no worse feeling than being like, dagger, and then
Yeah.
5 minutes later your team loses, and it's just like,
Yeah, like Pia's dad early in the game was like, "No, you're gonna get your Super Bowl. You're gonna get your Super Bowl. They're gonna win." And I'm just
stop
like,
it.
I have to see it to believe it. I hope so.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, but it's like that's not the reason why the 49ers didn't win. The reason why they didn't win is because they have a genius as the head coach, and I'm too dumb to understand.
Yep. There
You know,
go.
because they say you want to get the ball in your play, you know, in your best player's hands, you know, with the game on the line, and then he's like, yeah, it doesn't work that way, but like, you know, he has shown every single time, like he'll go away from the people who have gotten him there, like Deebo Samuel, and he only got 2 touches in the Super Bowl. Deebo Samuel didn't really get the ball against the Rams in the second half in 2021. But Sean McVay, when he played against the 49ers in that NFC Championship game, he didn't care about the way it worked. He got the ball to Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
So that's the difference
always
between
been
Shanahan.
yeah.
That's the difference between Shanahan having a ring and McVay having a ring, because McVay just said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to put the ball in the hands of the people who got me here. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not all about X's and O's. It's about the matchups.
Yep.
It's about the players.
Well, and it's
Don't make it about
scheming them
yourself.
open.
Make it about the players.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I mean, that's the funniest thing is like, it can be both ways. Like, look at Andy Reid. You know, he can scheme guys open like that final play of the game. And he gets that one play where people like myself are saying, man, Andy Reid, you know, but also like it's all Mahomes, right? And then get the ball to Travis Kelce. Kelce, after that final drive in regulation, he ends up with like 90 yards receiving. It's like up until that catch, he had like only 40 or 50 or whatever he had, you know, but it's like, I don't know, just, yeah, it sucks.
Anyways, everyone, that's the show. I know I said that like about maybe 20 minutes ago, but you know, I mean, it's just a great conversation. So, you know, we hope that you guys enjoyed the stream, have enjoyed the like entire first season of our show, if you want to call it that. Maybe I'll put it in a playlist. So yeah, we appreciate you all. Have a great night. I'm going to try not to fumble the outro this time. God bless America.
And God bless the Raiders and the Niners.